Story 1. This story is titled, I canceled my girlfriend's stay at a luxury resort that I paid for after she used my tickets to go with her friends instead of me. Hey everyone! Before we jump into today's video, I need your help. We've noticed the channel is losing some traction, and subscribing is one of the best ways you can support us. It's quick, free, and it helps us keep bringing you awesome content. Your support means the world. Let's keep this channel growing together. Thanks so much. Now let's start the video. Hi Reddit, I'm Jason, 30 male, and I've been dating Lisa, 28 female, for 3 years. I've always been the kind of guy who puts 110% into the things I care about, and Lisa is no exception. So when her birthday and our 3-year anniversary ended up being just a week apart, I knew I wanted to do something big, something she'd never forget. I spent a lot of time planning a 5-day trip to a luxury resort in Miami. This wasn't your run-of-the-mill getaway either. I booked the best suite, lined up fun activities, and even reserved us a private dinner on the beach. Every detail was planned to perfection because, well, I had one more thing in mind. I was going to propose. I'd been saving for this ring for nearly a year. It wasn't flashy, but it was classic and elegant, exactly her style. In my head, I pictured us walking along the shore at sunset, her saying yes, and me feeling like the luckiest guy alive. It felt like the right time. We'd been talking about the future more often, and I wanted to take that next step with her. When I first told Lisa about the trip, she seemed genuinely excited. She kept saying how amazing Miami would be, and joked about how she'd fill her Instagram with pictures of the beach, the food, and the sunsets. I'll admit, I was a little annoyed that her focus was more on Instagram than on the actual experience, but I brushed it off. That's just who Lisa is. She loves sharing her life online. But as the trip got closer, I noticed her excitement start to fade. At first, I didn't think much of it. Everyone has off days, right? But then it became a pattern. She started taking longer to respond to texts and barely answered my calls. Whenever I brought up the trip, she'd give vague answers like, yeah, it's gonna be fun, or I can't wait, but without the same energy she had before. I tried to be understanding. Lisa had mentioned work had been stressful lately, and I figured that might be what was dragging her down. But at the same time, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. I asked her if she was okay a couple of times. Is something bothering you about the trip? I'd say. Every time she'd shrug it off. No, everything's fine. You're overthinking, she'd reply, then change the subject. There was this one time, about 2 weeks before the trip, when I noticed her on her phone way more than usual. Normally, I wouldn't think twice about it because Lisa is practically glued to her phone, but she was being extra secretive. If I walked into the room, she'd quickly lock the screen or flip her phone face down. I even joked about it once, saying, "What? Planning a surprise for me?" She just laughed awkwardly and said, something like that. I tried not to dwell on it, but my gut kept telling me something wasn't right. Maybe it was paranoia, or maybe it was the little things adding up. The weird vibe, the lack of enthusiasm, and the fact that she'd been spending more time with her best friend Taylor lately. Normally, I wouldn't care about that either. Taylor and Lisa have been friends forever, but I couldn't help noticing that Taylor always seemed to pop up whenever Lisa canceled plans with me. One night, about a week before the trip, Lisa said she had to work late. It wasn't unusual. She's a graphic designer and sometimes takes on freelance projects outside her full-time job. But then, when I checked Instagram later, I saw a story Taylor posted. They were out grabbing dinner together. I didn't say anything because I didn't want to come across as controlling or clingy, but it definitely made me wonder why she felt the need to lie. If she wanted to hang out with Taylor instead of me, she could have just said so. The night before the trip, I packed my bags and double-checked everything. Tickets, itinerary, and of course, the ring. I was trying to stay optimistic despite the lingering doubt in the back of my mind. Lisa texted me around 10 p.m., saying she was super tired and going to bed early so she could be ready for the flight in the morning. I told her to sleep well and that I'd pick her up at 9 a.m. sharp. She replied with a thumbs-up emoji, which wasn't exactly the warm response I was hoping for, but I let it slide. As I went to bed that night, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was about to go wrong. I told myself I was just overthinking again. After all, this trip was going to be perfect. How could it not be? Little did I know, the next 24 hours would completely change how I saw Lisa, our relationship, and even myself. The morning of the trip started like any other. I woke up early, double-checked my bag, and mentally ran through everything I needed for the trip. That's when it hit me. My passport wasn't in my bag. I couldn't believe I'd forgotten something so basic, but it was no big deal. I remembered leaving it in my office drawer after using it for some work-related paperwork a few weeks earlier. I figured I'd swing by the office, grab the passport, and still make it to Lisa's place with plenty of time to get to the airport. I sent her a quick text letting her know I'd be at her place around 9:30 a.m. She didn't reply, but I didn't think much of it at the time. The office was unusually quiet that morning, fully quiet. As I walked toward my desk, I saw my assistant Jenna sorting through some files. "Morning, what are you doing here? Still not ready?" she asked, looking surprised to see me. I told her I was just there to grab my passport, but before I could finish, she cut me off. "Oh, by the way, your meeting with Wayland Corp is in 10 minutes. Are you prepped for it?" I stopped in my tracks. "What meeting?" I asked, completely confused. Jenna tilted her head and frowned. "The one with Wayland Corp? It's been on your calendar all week. You confirmed it a few days ago." I pulled out my phone and checked my calendar. Sure enough, there it was. Blocked off as a meeting I had supposedly agreed to. But I hadn't confirmed anything. My stomach started to turn as I scrolled through the email chain to see what was going on. And that's when I saw it. The meeting invite had been sent to me earlier in the week, but it wasn't me who replied. Someone else had used my email to confirm the meeting. The reply read, "Jason will be there. Sounds great." And that someone was Lisa. At first, I just stood there, staring at my phone like it was going to give me an answer. Why would Lisa do this? Did she mess with my calendar by accident? Or was this deliberate? I wanted to think there was some logical explanation, but deep down, I already knew the truth. Lisa had set me up. This wasn't just bad timing. She knew I wouldn't be able to skip a meeting once it was on the calendar. The realization hit me like a ton of bricks. She had planned this. Meanwhile, the clock was ticking, and I didn't have time to sort out my emotions. Jenna told me the Wayland team was already in the conference room, waiting to discuss a potential deal. Skipping the meeting wasn't an option, not without damaging my reputation and possibly the company's relationship with one of our biggest clients. So I did what I had to do. I locked my emotions away, put on my professional face, and walked into that conference room like nothing was wrong. But the whole time, my head was spinning. I couldn't stop replaying the past few weeks in my mind. Lisa had been acting strange for a while now, avoiding conversations about the trip, canceling plans, and spending more time with Taylor. I'd written it off as stress or work-related, but now it all felt calculated. As the meeting dragged on, I kept checking my phone, giving Lisa the benefit of doubt. Maybe she would text me with some kind of explanation, but there was nothing. When the meeting finally ended, I rushed out of the room and back to my desk. My first instinct was to call Lisa, but before I could, something told me to check her Instagram. It felt ridiculous at first. Why would her Instagram have anything to do with this? But when I opened the app and saw her stories, my heart sank. There she was, at the resort I had booked for us. She was lounging by the pool with Taylor, laughing and looking like she didn't have a care in the world. I kept watching and scrolling through her stories. One of them showed the suite I had booked. Our suite. The same one I'd imagined us staying in, celebrating her birthday and our anniversary. And she wasn't alone. Taylor was there, of course, but so were a few guys I didn't recognize. They were all smiling, laughing, and posing for the camera like they were having the time of their lives. I tried calling her again. Straight to voicemail. Then I texted her, "What the hell is going on? Why are you at the resort without me?" No response. I couldn't believe it. She had used my reservation, my money, to go on this trip without me. And not just without me, but with a group of people I didn't even know. I stared at her stories for what felt like an eternity, trying to make sense of what I was seeing. The Lisa in those videos wasn't the person I thought I knew. She wasn't the person I'd spent 3 years with, planning a future together. I felt sick. After piecing everything together, I couldn't hold back anymore. I called Lisa over and over again, each ring making me angrier. She wasn't answering, and honestly, I wasn't surprised. It felt like she was purposely dodging me, as if ignoring me would make this whole thing go away. But this morning, after about a dozen calls, she finally picked up. I didn't even let her start. "What the hell is going on, Lisa? You sabotaged my morning so you could steal the trip." I could hear my voice shaking, a mix of anger and disbelief. Her response? Completely casual. "Jason, I needed this trip to clear my head. You're always so uptight and focused on your plans. I just wanted to have fun for once." Clear her head? Fun? My mind was racing. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Fun? Lisa, I planned this for us. This wasn't some random vacation. It was our anniversary and your birthday. I was going to propose. I let it all out because at this point, what was the point of holding back? And then she said the words that will probably stick with me forever. "Well, maybe it's good you didn't. Honestly, you're kind of boring sometimes." I knew you'd just kill the vibe. Boring? Kill the vibe? It was like everything I thought I knew about our relationship was a lie. I had spent months planning this trip, not just for her, but for us. I had poured my time, effort, and money into making this perfect, and she had the audacity to throw it back in my face. That was it. I was done. All right, Lisa, I said, keeping my voice as calm as I could. If you think I'm so boring, then you don't need my plans, my money, or my help. Enjoy the trip. You're on your own now. Before she could respond, I hung up. My hands were shaking as I dialed the resort. When I got through to the receptionist, I explained everything. How my girlfriend had checked in without me, how she wasn't authorized to use my reservation, and how she wasn't even supposed to be there alone. The receptionist was incredibly understanding and sympathetic. She said she'd do everything she could to help me. The first thing I asked was for the remaining days of the stay to be canceled. She informed me that because Lisa had already checked in, I couldn't get a full refund, but I could get back most of the money for the unused nights. I agreed immediately. Losing a little money was worth knowing she wouldn't get to enjoy the rest of her stolen vacation. Next, I canceled all the activities I had booked. The private dinner, the snorkeling trip, even the sunset sail I'd planned for the proposal. Each cancellation felt like taking back a small piece of control. Finally, I asked about the return flights. Since I had booked everything through the same travel agency, I was able to cancel her ticket. That one felt good. A few hours later, my phone started blowing up again. Lisa had finally noticed what I'd done. The messages started with anger. "You're such a petty jerk. I can't believe you'd ruin my vacation like this." Then they turned to guilt-tripping. "Wow, I didn't think you were this immature. You really need to grow up." And finally, she started begging, "Jason, please. I made a mistake. Just rebook the flight, and we can talk about this when I get home." I ignored every single one. She called me too, but I didn't pick up. I couldn't. I was too angry, too disgusted to hear her voice again. Lisa didn't just betray me. She had planned this betrayal. She had gone behind my back, ruined my schedule, and lied to me, all so she could enjoy a luxury trip on my dime with her friend and some random guys. I wasn't just angry at her. I was angry at myself for not seeing it sooner. Later, I decided to block her. I didn't want to hear her excuses, her apologies, or her insults. I needed to focus on myself and figure out where to go from here. But before I did, I wrote her one final text. "You wanted to clear your head and have fun? Go ahead, but don't expect me to clean up the mess you made. Find your own way home." Then I hit block. As I'm writing this, Lisa is still trying to contact me through every possible channel. She's using her friends' phones, emailing me, even messaging me on apps I forgot I had. The messages are a mix of anger and desperation. One minute she's calling me a child for canceling everything, and the next she's begging me to forgive her. I'll keep you guys updated on how all of this will end up. Would really appreciate any comment or piece of advice. Update 1. Hey everyone, I wanted to give you an update because things have escalated since my last post. First, I just want to say thanks for all the advice and support. A lot of you encouraged me to tell Lisa's parents what happened, and honestly, I wasn't sure at first. But after thinking about it, I realized they deserve to know the truth, especially that she'd probably reach out to them for help. So I wanted to make sure everything was clear to them. Lisa's parents, let's call them the Thompsons, have always been good to me. Her mom would call me her future son-in-law and even joked about how she'd save a spot in the family photo album for me. Her dad was a bit more reserved, but we bonded over sports and DIY projects whenever we visited. They genuinely seemed to like me, and I liked them too. So I figured, why not let them in on what their daughter has been up to? I called her mom first. "Hi, Mrs. Thompson. I hope I'm not catching you at a bad time," I started, trying to keep my tone calm and respectful. She immediately knew something was up. "Jason, is everything okay? You sound serious." So I told her everything. I didn't hold back, and I made sure to emphasize how calculated Lisa's actions were. Her mom was quiet at first, but then she let out this deep sigh. "Jason, I'm so sorry. I had no idea." Turns out, Lisa had lied to them too. She told her parents I couldn't go on the trip because of work issues and that she didn't want to let the tickets go to waste. Apparently, she painted herself as the victim of my supposed workaholism, saying she was using the trip to clear her head after being so neglected by me. Hearing that pissed me off even more. Not only did she betray me, but she tried to make herself look like the victim in front of her own family. Her mom apologized over and over, saying this was so unlike Lisa and that she couldn't believe her daughter would do something so selfish. That's when it hit me. Lisa wasn't just lying to me, she was lying to everyone. She didn't just manipulate my plans, she kept her own family in the dark too. Her mom asked me what I planned to do next, and I told her the truth. I've already canceled everything. The room, the activities, even her flight back. She's on her own now. Mrs. Thompson was quiet for a moment before saying, "Honestly, Jason, I don't blame you. She needs to grow up and deal with the mess she made." Her dad got on the phone next. Now, Mr. Thompson isn't the warm, chatty type like his wife. He's more of a straight shooter. When I told him what Lisa did, his first words were, "That's ridiculous. She's 28, not 18. She knows better." Well, Jason, I can tell you this. We're not bailing her out. She made this mess and she can clean it up herself. Hearing that was so satisfying. It felt like validation, not just for what I'd been through, but for the decision I made to cut her off. Later that day, Lisa must have realized her parents weren't coming to her rescue because the messages started pouring in again. At first, she was still trying to play the victim. "Why are you telling my parents? That's so immature, Jason. This is between us." But then, when she realized her parents weren't going to send her money for a flight home, the tone shifted. "Jason, please. I didn't mean for it to go this far. I just needed some space to figure things out. Jason, can we talk? I made a mistake and I need your help. I'm sorry, okay? Just call me back so we can fix this." Fix this? I'm not the one who broke anything. She's the one who lied, schemed, and betrayed me. At one point, she even tried to guilt trip me. "You're really going to leave me stranded here? After 3 years together? That's so cold." Cold? Coming from the woman who had no problem sabotaging me and using my money to party with other guys? The audacity was unreal. I didn't respond to any of it. Not the guilt tripping, not the fake apologies, not the pathetic attempts to shift the blame onto me. Instead, I blocked her number. I wish I could say that was the end of it, but Lisa found other ways to reach me. She started emailing me, messaging me on social media, and even tried using Taylor's phone to call me. Speaking of Taylor, I'm not sure what her deal is. Part of me wants to believe she didn't know the full story, but at the same time, she had to know something was off. Either way, I'm not interested in hearing her excuses. As of now, Lisa is still stuck at the resort. Her parents refuse to send her any money, and from what Mrs. Thompson told me, Lisa doesn't have enough in her own account to book a flight back. To everyone who said I should tell her parents, thank you. It felt so good to have their support and know that I wasn't crazy for being so angry about what happened. This whole situation has been a wake-up call for me. I spent 3 years with someone who clearly didn't value me, and I'm done making excuses for her. Lisa can stay in Miami and figure out how to get home on her own. Thanks again for all the advice and support. Let me know if you want more updates. Something tells me this isn't over yet. Update 2. Hey Reddit, I'm back with another update, and trust me, it's a wild one. Before I dive into the new mess I uncovered, I want to fill you in on what happened with Lisa after my last update. So after I canceled everything, her hotel stay, activities, and return flight, Lisa was stuck at the resort. Her parents refused to help her, and she didn't have enough money in her account to book a new flight home. I guess she spent most of it trying to keep up appearances while partying with her friends and those random guys. From what I've heard, thanks to mutual friends who couldn't resist spilling the details, Lisa spent a couple of days scrambling to figure out how to get back. She tried reaching out to Taylor for help, but even Taylor bailed on her at the last minute. It turns out, Taylor isn't as loyal as Lisa thought. Apparently, she went back home early without even telling Lisa. Eventually, Lisa managed to borrow money from one of her friends who felt bad for her, but it didn't come without strings attached. The friend made her pay back every cent within a week of getting home, which put Lisa in an even worse spot financially. She's been pretty quiet on social media ever since. Anyway, after Lisa managed to slink back into town, I was still feeling like there was more to the story. Something about the guys in her Instagram stories kept bugging me, so I decided to dig a little deeper. That's when I came across Brandon. He was one of the guys at the resort, but I didn't recognize him as just some random dude. I knew I'd seen him somewhere before, and it hit me. He's her supervisor at work. His Instagram account was public, and as soon as I started scrolling, the pieces started to fall into place. Brandon had a lot of pictures with Lisa. Some were from work events, which could have been innocent enough, but others, not so much. There were pictures of them out for dinner, hiking together, and even at a rooftop bar. The captions weren't particularly romantic, but they didn't need to be. The body language said it all. Then there was a photo of Brandon, Lisa, and Taylor at a fancy restaurant. It was posted on the same night Taylor had put up a story saying, "Girls' Night." Remember that night I mentioned earlier when Lisa lied about working late and Taylor posted a dinner story? Turns out Brandon was there too. It was like every lie Lisa told me was unraveling in real time. I couldn't let it go, so I decided to message Brandon directly. I kept it short and to the point. Hey, Brandon. I think we need to talk. Looks like we've both been seeing the same girl. To his credit, Brandon responded right away. At first, he seemed confused, but once I sent him screenshots of my text with Lisa and pictures of us together, his tone changed fast. He called me that same day, and we had a long conversation. Turns out Brandon had no idea Lisa was in a relationship. She'd told him she was single and wanted to take things slow because she was focusing on her career. Brandon admitted he'd been interested in her for a while, but hadn't made a move because, as her supervisor, he didn't want to cross any professional boundaries. Lisa, however, had been doing everything she could to blur those lines. Brandon shared some eye-opening details. He told me Lisa had been inviting him out for work brainstorming sessions, conveniently scheduling them at nice restaurants or coffee shops instead of the office. She'd casually drop hints about how hard it was to find someone who understood her, and how much she admired his work ethic. One time, she even asked him to drive her home after a team event because she'd accidentally left her car at home. She spent the entire drive talking about how she felt stuck in her personal life and needed a change. Looking back, Brandon said he always felt like Lisa was pushing the boundaries, but he didn't think much of it at the time, and he just let it happen until he found himself dating her. He wasn't planning on going to Miami with them, but she convinced him it would cause no harm, as they would be a group and there won't be whispers about the two of them specifically. Now, he realizes she was grooming him as her backup plan, or maybe her main plan, depending on how things went with me. As Brandon and I compared notes, everything started to make sense. The working late nights? She was probably with Brandon. The weekend she said she was too tired to hang out? That was the same weekend Brandon posted a picture of her and Taylor at brunch. The Vegas trip? Brandon had invited her as part of a company retreat, but Lisa made it seem like she was visiting her parents. Even Taylor was in on it. Every time Lisa needed a cover story, Taylor was there to back her up. It's like they had this whole scheme planned out and saw me as the idiot boyfriend who believed every word. Brandon was just as furious as I was. He said he felt betrayed and embarrassed, not just as her supervisor, but as someone who thought Lisa was genuinely interested in him. He even apologized to me, which was surprising but appreciated. We ended the call agreeing that Lisa needed to face the consequences of her lies. Brandon said he'd figure out how to handle things at work, but he also wanted to confront Lisa about everything. I told him I was all in, whatever it took to make sure she couldn't keep doing this to people. Since that call, Brandon and I have been in touch, sharing more details and planning our next steps. Lisa has no idea Brandon and I are talking, and honestly, I'm looking forward to seeing her reaction when the truth comes out. As for Taylor, I'm done with her too. She's just as guilty in all of this, and I have no interest in hearing her excuses. Lisa, of course, is still trying to reach me. She sent emails, messages from random numbers, and even tried leaving voicemails. Her latest excuse? Jason, I didn't mean for this to happen. Please, can we just talk? No, Lisa, we can't. I'll keep you all updated as things unfold. Thanks for sticking with me through this mess. It's been a wild ride, but at least I'm finally seeing the truth. Update 3. Hey Reddit, I'm back with the final update, hopefully, to this insane mess. Buckle up because this one's the most satisfying yet. After everything Lisa did, the lies, the manipulation, the double life, it was time for some real accountability. I teamed up with Brandon, her supervisor and secret side guy, to expose her for what she truly is. And it worked better than I could have hoped. Brandon and I planned our next move carefully. We didn't want to come across as vindictive or unhinged, so we decided the best way to confront Lisa was to hit her with the truth all at once. Brandon agreed to set up a meeting with Lisa under the guise of discussing work-related matters. Meanwhile, I would join the call as a surprise guest. When the meeting started, Lisa looked completely caught off guard. She stammered something like, "What's he doing here?" But before she could say anything else, Brandon and I laid everything out. I showed screenshots of our texts, pictures of us together, and even old anniversary posts to prove we were in a long-term relationship. Brandon shared his side of the story, how she'd been pursuing him at work, inviting him out under the guise of brainstorming sessions, and lying about being single. We both confronted her about the lies she told to cover her tracks, including how she used Taylor to help her scheme. At first, Lisa tried to deny everything. She kept saying, "This is a misunderstanding," and "You're blowing things out of proportion." But as we continued showing her more evidence, she broke down. "I didn't mean for it to happen like this," she cried. "I just felt stuck, and I didn't know what to do. I wasn't having it." Stuck? You weren't stuck, Lisa. You were juggling two people who trusted you while lying to everyone around you. That's not being stuck. It's being selfish. Brandon was just as blunt. Do you realize how many boundaries you crossed? You didn't just lie to me, you jeopardized my reputation at work. You made me look like an AP. Lisa had no response. She just sat there, crying and mumbling apologies. But by that point, neither of us cared. After the confrontation, Brandon took the matter to HR. He explained how Lisa had been pursuing him inappropriately and manipulating their professional relationship. To make things worse for her, other coworkers started coming forward with their own stories about Lisa's behavior. Apparently, Lisa wasn't exactly popular at work. She had a reputation for being fake and manipulative, but most people just stayed quiet to avoid drama. Once Brandon filed the report, though, it opened the floodgates. Within a week, Lisa was let go. The official reason? Violation of workplace policies. She tried to fight it, but the evidence against her was overwhelming. Getting fired was just the beginning of Lisa's downfall. Word spread quickly about what she'd done, and her friends started cutting ties with her one by one. Taylor, her so-called best friend, dropped her like a bad habit. From what I've heard, Taylor was more worried about protecting her own reputation than sticking by Lisa. Lisa's parents weren't any more sympathetic. After I told them everything and kept them updated later as well, they started seeing her true colors. Her mom called me a few days ago to apologize again for Lisa's behavior, saying, "I don't know where we went wrong with her." Even her dad, who rarely gets involved in personal drama, told Lisa she needed to fix her life and stop blaming other people for her mistakes. Lisa is completely isolated now. Her co-workers, or now ex-co-workers, don't want anything to do with her. Her friends have abandoned her, and her parents are fed up with her nonsense. As for me, I feel like a weight has been lifted off my shoulders. For 3 years, I thought I was building a future with someone who loved and respected me. Now I see how wrong I was, but instead of feeling bitter, I feel free. I've been focusing on myself, and it's been amazing. I booked a solo trip to Miami. Yes, the trip I should have been taking with Lisa, and it was everything I needed. Surfing, hiking, and just enjoying my own company made me realize how much I'd been neglecting myself while trying to please someone who didn't deserve it. Brandon and I have stayed in touch. He's doing fine, though he admitted it's been awkward dealing with the fallout at work. He told me he's using this experience as a reminder to keep stricter boundaries in the future. Honestly, I respect the guy. He was just as much a victim of Lisa's manipulation as I was. Even after everything, Lisa hasn't stopped trying to contact me. She's been emailing me, messaging me from random accounts, and even showed up at my apartment once. When I saw her at my door, I didn't even let her in. I stepped outside and told her to leave. She started crying and saying she was sorry for everything and that she just wanted to talk. "Lisa, I don't think you understand," I said. "There's nothing left to talk about. You lied, you cheated, and you manipulated everyone around you. I don't care what your excuses are. You made your choices, and now you have to live with the consequences." She begged me to forgive her, saying she'd change and make things right, but I wasn't buying it. This isn't about forgiveness, Lisa. It's about respect, and you've lost all of mine. With that, I walked back inside and shut the door. Thanks to everyone who followed this journey and offered advice and support. It's been quite a mess, but I'm glad I finally saw Lisa for who she really is. Here's to new beginnings. Story 2. This story is titled, "My Family Mocked Me for Being Broke, until I cut them off financially and stopped paying their pills. Their world fell apart, and now they want me back." Hey everyone! Before we jump into today's video, I need your help. We've noticed the channel is losing some traction, and subscribing is one of the best ways you can support us. It's quick, free, and it helps us keep bringing you awesome content. Your support means the world. Let's keep this channel growing together. Thanks so much. Now let's start the video. Hey Reddit, never thought I'd be dumping my personal drama here, but I seriously need to get this crap off my chest. Feels like I'm gonna explode if I don't tell someone what's been happening. This might be long af, so settle in. So I'm Ethan, 29, male, and I work at a quick stop gas station. Night shift mostly. Ring up gas, sell lottery tickets, deal with drunk people at 2 a.m. You know the drill. Not exactly living the dream, right? At least that's what my family thinks. See, 5 years ago my parents died in a car crash. Totally unexpected. Messed me up for a long time. They left behind their house and some savings, which got put into this trust thing their lawyer set up. I'm the one who manages it, and for years I've been using it to help out my extended family. My Aunt Diane, 52, Uncle Greg, 54, and my cousins Tyler, 27, and Jason, 25. They think they're living the good life on their own dime. They're not. I pay 70% of Diane and Greg's mortgage. Their fancy vacations? Mostly me. The cars they flex? Guess where the money's coming from? But they think it's some government assistance program for families of accident victims. I never corrected them because, frankly, I don't care. I drive a beat-up 2009 Honda that rattles when it hits 55 miles per hour. I live in a basic apartment, rotate through the same 5 t-shirts. Not because I'm broke, but because I don't see the point of spending money on nonsense. My parents taught me how to handle money, and I actually listened. Anyway, a couple of weeks ago, we had dinner at their place. Big house, fancy kitchen. Basically, my money well spent. I brought homemade lasagna, my mom's recipe. Walk in, and the first thing I hear is Diane telling Jason, "At least someone in this family knows how to treat themselves," while shooting me a look. Yeah, okay. Dinner starts. Uncle Greg brags about his golf membership, mine. Tyler flexes his smartwatch, mine. Jason's hyped about some concert, yep, mine. Then Diane, in her usual passive-aggressive way, goes, "Ethan, honey, don't you think it's time you got a real job? Your father always knew how to present himself." I didn't even blink. Just took another bite of lasagna. The same lasagna she was raving about 5 minutes ago, assuming it was store-bought, because, in her mind, I couldn't possibly afford quality ingredients. Then Jason, ever the golden child, chimes in, "Not everyone can make something of themselves, Mom. Ethan's doing his best." Oh, my bad. I must have forgotten that I fund your entire life, Jason. Then they start talking about their upcoming Cancun trip. Booked on a credit card, that's being paid off by me. They don't even bother inviting me, which, honestly, is a relief. Greg, ever the philosopher, raises his glass. Some of us work hard enough to deserve nice things. All right, bro. Then Diane drops this gem. You know, Ethan, you'll always be a nobody, just like your father was before he got lucky. The room goes quiet. Even my cousins shift uncomfortably. My father wasn't lucky. He was smart, built everything from the ground up. And here these clowns are, coasting off his legacy while looking down on me. I calmly finished my plate, got up, and said I had an early shift. As I was walking out, I heard Diane laughing. Maybe we should start a GoFundMe for poor Ethan. That set my mind on fire, but I didn't react, didn't flinch. They didn't see me pause in the hallway. Didn't see me pull out my phone and open my banking app and make calls. But the next morning, I put my plan in motion. They have no idea what's coming. I've let them play pretend for 5 years. But I finally had enough. But then, something unexpected happened. A couple of nights later, I was at work, still running on that quiet fury, when she pulled into the gas station. 11 p.m., flat tire. Looking stressed, but not helpless. That was the first time I met Jessica. She was gorgeous. Like, the kind of gorgeous that makes you do a double take. But she was also real. No fake attitude, no entitlement. Kindergarten teacher, loved her job, laughed at my dumb jokes without forcing it. While I changed her tire, we talked, and for the first time in a while, I actually enjoyed a conversation where no one was trying to impress me. When I was done, she asked for my number. I think she was more interested. We started dating, and man, those were the best 2 months of my life. I forgot about my family bullshit. Jessica was so different from anyone I've ever met. She didn't care about fancy stuff at all. She drove this old Corolla that made my Honda look fancy, lived in this tiny apartment with a roommate to save money, and was totally cool with our cheap dates. We'd grab $5 pizza and watch movies at my place, or go hiking, or just drive around talking for hours. For the first time since my parents died, I felt like someone actually saw me, not just the gas station guy everyone looks down on. Then one Sunday, my family sent the usual dinner invite. Normally, I'd go, take my usual punches, and leave. This time, I showed up with Jessica. I warned Jessica that my family could be a bit much, but nothing could have prepared either of us for what happened. The moment we walked in, I could see Aunt Diane sizing Jessica up, checking out her simple sundress and non-designer purse. Her face had that tight smile I knew meant trouble. "Oh, Ethan, you didn't tell us you were bringing a friend," Diane said, emphasizing friend like she couldn't believe anyone would date me. Uncle Greg barely looked up from his phone. "Hey, kid, there's extra chairs in the garage." Real classy welcome. I got the chairs while Jessica tried to make conversation. When I came back from the garage, Tyler had somehow positioned himself next to Jessica, showing her pictures of his recent trip to Hawaii on his phone. "I go there twice a year," he was saying. "Maybe next time you could come. With better company, of course." He winked at her while shooting me a look. Jessica laughed uncomfortably and scooted closer to me when I sat down. I squeezed her hand under the table, trying to silently apologize for my family's behavior. Dinner started, and it just got worse. Every time Jessica mentioned something about our relationship, My family found a way to make me look pathetic. Ethan took me to this cute little Italian place last weekend, Jessica said, trying to join the conversation. Oh, you mean Salvatore's? Diane laughed. That's where we take the kids for birthday parties. I'm surprised Ethan could afford even that on his gas station salary. Jessica's smile did this little falter thing that made my stomach hurt. Speaking of jobs, Jason chimed in. Did Ethan tell you he's been at that gas station for what, 4 years now? No ambition to move up? I think it's admirable, Jessica defended me. He's reliable and his customers like him. Tyler nearly spit out his drink laughing. Customers like him? You mean the truck drivers who buy beef jerky at 2 a.m.? Not exactly a career path. I tried to change the subject, but they weren't letting up. So, Jessica, Uncle Greg said, setting down his fork, you teach kindergarten? That's nice. Tyler here just made junior partner at his law firm. Bought himself a new Mercedes to celebrate. Jessica looked surprised. Oh, congratulations. That's impressive. What can I say? Tyler grinned. Some of us have goals. The digs kept coming, one after another. How my car broke down 3 times last year? Not true. How I still hadn't paid Uncle Greg back for a loan? Also not true. He owed me money. How I probably couldn't even afford to take Jessica anywhere nice for her birthday. Through it all, Jessica kept squeezing my hand under the table, but I could see her expression changing when she looked around at my family's house, their clothes, their success. Then, looking at me, the gas station loser. Then, the final hit came from Aunt Diane. Jessica, honey, you seem like such a nice girl. Smart, pretty. What exactly do you see in our Ethan? You know he's never going to be able to give you the life you deserve, right? The table went quiet. Jessica's face went red. I think Ethan has a lot to offer, she said quietly. But I could see it in her eyes. Doubt. That seed my family had planted was already growing. The rest of the night was a blur. We left early, and the car ride home was mostly silent. Jessica said she had a headache and wanted to go straight home. I nodded, but something was already off. She wasn't holding my hand like she usually did. Over the next few days, I noticed the shift. Texts took longer to get replies. Calls ended quicker. The good morning and good night messages stopped. A week later, we had dinner at her place. Usually, we'd order cheap takeout, watch some stupid show, and just talk. But that night, she barely spoke. I caught her glancing at her phone every 5 minutes. Something wrong? I asked, trying to keep my voice light. Just work stuff, she muttered. She never used to check her phone this much, but I was sure it wasn't work. It was something else, but couldn't put my finger on it. The following weekend, she canceled our plans last minute. Hanging with some old friends, she said. No invite for me. A few days later, she sent me the text. I think we need some space. Said she needed time to figure things out. That she wasn't sure we wanted the same future. That dinner with my family had opened her eyes. I kept thinking, what could it be exactly? That dinner was a whole mess. 2 weeks after our break, I found out why she really needed space. I was checking on my Instagram. I wasn't even looking for it. Just scrolling. And there it was. Jessica and Tyler. Some fancy rooftop restaurant. Expensive cocktails. His caption? Upgraded her taste in men. I saw red. I could have thrown my phone across the room. I could have driven to their fancy-ass dinner and flipped the damn table. Instead, I got quiet. Because anger is loud, but revenge? That's silent. Apparently, Tyler got in her head. He'd been texting her. I found out from Jason later. Ethan's a great guy, but can he really give you the life you want? You deserve more than just struggling to get by. It's okay to want stability. And Jessica? She bought it. That night, I sat in my apartment staring at that picture for hours. 5 years of helping these people, and this is how they repay me. They didn't just mock me. They wanted to take everything I have. But Tyler thought he won. He had no idea what was coming. I made my decision then and there. I called my financial advisor. Remember that plan we discussed? It's time. He sounded concerned. Are you sure? Once we start this process? I'm sure, I said. They've taken everything else. They don't get to take my dignity too. This wasn't just about Jessica anymore. This was about 5 years of disrespect while I quietly kept them afloat. It was time to pull the plug. Then I sat down and went through everything. I knew the numbers were bad, but seeing them all laid out at once? Holy crap. Here's what my broke ass has been paying for all these years. Their 5-bedroom house in the nice part of town, that's $1,960 every freaking month, pulled directly from the trust I manage. They never once questioned where the money actually comes from. Like, who thinks the government just hands out free mortgage money for years? Uncle Greg's precious golf club membership costs $375 monthly. He calls it his networking expenses and acts like it's some crucial business investment. The dude sells insurance for a living. The only thing he networks about is his golf swing. Then there's my cousin Tyler's 2022 Mercedes at $785 monthly payment. Yeah, that car he used to pick up Jessica? I'm paying for it. And Jason's 2021 Audi runs me $675 monthly. He hit a mailbox while texting last year, and I paid the $3,200 repair bill too. Every single one of their luxuries, every vacation, every designer bag, every emergency that needed a quick cash infusion had all been coming from the same place, from me. And they had the audacity to look down on me, to mock my job, my car, my life, while they flaunted their success they hadn't even earned. That afternoon, I had to drop off some insurance documents at their house. Nobody was home, but I have a key. I'm the emergency contact after all. As I was leaving the papers in Uncle Greg's study, I noticed some printed emails on his desk. They were planning a huge engagement party for Tyler and Jessica. After 2 months of dating, everyone from their social circle is invited, except me. The email chain was something else. Diane wrote that they couldn't have me there because Jessica didn't want me making a scene. Greg agreed, saying they'd just tell me it was a small gathering. Tyler, to his microscopic credit, at least questioned it, saying I was still his cousin. Greg shut it down immediately. Life's harsh. Besides, he'd embarrass us in front of Jessica's family. I read that line twice. Embarrass them. Like I was some stray dog they didn't want ruining their fancy event. Next to these emails, quotes for a $22,000 renovation for their master bathroom. Guess who they expect to find the money for that? I sat in my car for a while after seeing those emails. Not sad, just done. Completely done. Then, like some final pathetic joke from the universe, I got a text from Jessica. Tyler told me you've been spreading lies about his family. Please stop. They've been nothing but generous to you. Generous. I stared at the word for a long time. I didn't respond. Instead, I made some calls, set some things in motion. The trust that's been funding their lifestyle. It's not as simple as just cutting them off. But there are ways, legal ways, properly documented ways. I sat up a clear exit strategy after meeting with my financial advisor. Had all my ducks in a row. But then Aunt Diane called, insisting I come to dinner again. Said they needed to discuss something important with me. Tyler and Jessica will be there, she added, like that was supposed to be an incentive. They have big news. I knew exactly what I was walking into, but I went anyway. Time to see their true colors one last time. I arrived at 6 p.m. sharp. The first thing I noticed? Workers installing a fancy new chandelier in their entryway. Remember that home renovation I mentioned? Apparently, they decided to start early. With my money, of course. Ethan! Diane beamed with fake excitement. Don't mind the mess, we're just doing a little upgrading. You know how it is. She paused. Well, maybe you don't. I just nodded and walked in. The whole family was there, plus Jessica, all dressed up like it was some formal occasion. Tyler had his arm wrapped around Jessica's waist. She barely made eye contact with me. Uncle Greg pulled me aside before dinner. Listen, sport, we need to have a serious talk about your attitude. You've been acting jealous, and it's making everyone uncomfortable. The nerve of this man, wearing the golf club polo I paid for while telling me about attitude. Dinner started tense. They'd ordered expensive catering, on the family credit card, naturally. Then Aunt Diane clinked her glass, and Tyler stood up, pulling Jessica up with him. We have an announcement, he said, grinning. Jessica and I are engaged. Everyone cheered. Jessica flashed a massive diamond ring. My cousin of all people managed to snag the only girl I've cared about in years, after dating her for all of 2 months. We're thinking a destination wedding, Tyler continued. Maybe Hawaii or the Bahamas. Whatever you want, sweetie, Diane cooed at Jessica. Only the best for our new daughter-in-law, Jessica beamed. You guys have been so amazing to me. Like the family I always wanted. I took another bite of my food I was technically paying for, and waited. Then Diane looked at me with fake sympathy. Ethan, honey, I know this might be difficult for you, but we think it's best if you skip the engagement party and wedding. It would just be awkward for Jessica. Tyler at least had the decency to look uncomfortable. Jessica just stared at her plate. The Williamsons are coming to the party, Uncle Greg added, and their daughter just made VP at her investment firm. We can't have you showing up talking about your gas station. It reflects poorly on us. I took another bite of my food and smiled. Which gas station stories would those be, Uncle Greg? The ones about how I manage a trust worth millions? Or the ones about how I've been paying your mortgage for 5 years? The room went dead silent. What are you talking about? Aunt Diane snapped. I pulled out my phone, opened my banking app. Let's talk numbers, shall we? Would you like to start with the mortgage, the cars, or Maybe that nice new chandelier that just went in? Jason laughed nervously. What's he talking about, Mom? He's obviously confused, Aunt Diane said quickly. The house payments come from the government assistance program after his parents. There is no government program, I said calmly. There never was. It's all been me. Through the trust my parents set up. Every single payment. Uncle Greg stood up, his face red. Now you listen here. No, I cut him off. You listen. For 5 fucking years, I've paid your mortgage, your cars, your bills, your golf club membership, your vacations, everything. Tyler dropped his fork. That's not... Dad, what's he talking about? Jessica was staring at me, her face going pale. Aunt Diane's face went from red to white. You're lying. You can barely afford gas for that trash car of yours. I started showing them screenshots, bank statements, transfer records, everything. That engagement ring on Jessica's finger, charged to the family credit card last week. The one I pay? The Bahamas wedding you're planning? Good luck with that. The bathroom renovation? Hope you got a good deposit deal. They exploded. All of them. Screaming, denying, threatening. Aunt Diane knocked over her wine glass, staining her new tablecloth red. Uncle Greg kept yelling about lawyers. Tyler was trying to explain to Jessica, who looked like she was about to throw up. I stayed seated, kept eating, let them tire themselves out. Finally, when they quieted down, I stood up. Check your emails tomorrow morning, all of you. Everything will be explained in detail, including the 60-day notice for new payment arrangements. Aunt Diane lunged forward, grabbing my arm. You can't do this to us. We're family. Family? I pulled my arm away. Family doesn't call family worthless, exclude family from gatherings, or steal girlfriends and then mock the relationship. I looked at Jessica. And you, little gold digger. Enjoy the life they can't actually afford. Hope that ring was worth it. I walked to the door, turned back one last time. By the way, that trash car of mine, fully paid off, unlike your cars, your house, or anything else you own. Left them all standing there screaming and crying. Got in my car, drove home. Their phones have been blowing up my phone ever since. Texts, calls, voicemails ranging from threats to begging to promises to change. Too late. Everything is prepared. Documents are ready. Lawyers are on standby. The next morning, 9 a.m. sharp, I sent the emails. Every single detail laid out in black and white. 5 years of transactions, receipts, wire transfers, mortgage payments, credit card bills, and car loans. No fluff, no explanations, just numbers. Cold, undeniable numbers. At the bottom, an official notice. All financial support ends in 60 days. Then I turned off my phone. I didn't sit around waiting for the fallout. I grabbed my keys, drove across town to a coffee shop I'd never been to, and sat there for 2 hours drinking the best damn espresso of my life. For the first time in years, I felt free. When I turned my phone back on, the screen nearly froze from the flood of notifications. 63 missed calls, 214 text messages, 43 Facebook messages. They had officially lost their minds. Aunt Diane was first to show up at my apartment. Didn't even knock, just started pounding on the door around noon. Ethan, open this door right now. You can't do this to us. I opened the door. She barged in, mascara running, waving her phone with the email displayed. This is a joke, right? This has to be a joke. Her voice was loud enough to alert my neighbors. I shrugged, barely looking at her. Diane, tears don't pay mortgages. You should know that by now. She looked confused as hell. You have 60 days to arrange new financing for everything, I continued. We'll be ruined. The mortgage, the cars, everything. How could you do this to family? Let's talk about family. Let's talk about calling me worthless, about excluding me from gatherings, about your son stealing the one good thing I had going for me. She switched tactics instantly, crying, trying to hug me. We didn't know. We're sorry. We can change. No, Aunt Diane, you can't. The trust dissolves in 60 days. Everything stops. The mortgage, the car payments, the credit cards, all of it. That's when Uncle Greg burst in. Apparently, she texted him my address. He was red-faced, veins popping. You ungrateful little... He stepped toward me aggressively. Bad move. One more step, I said calmly. And I call the police. Then the payments stop today, instead of in 60 days. He froze, the reality of the situation finally hitting him. Then my cousins arrived. Tyler looked shell-shocked, like his whole world had just collapsed in real time. Jason was panicking. What about Jessica? Tyler kept saying. What am I supposed to tell her? The truth might be a good start, I said, leaning back, arms crossed. That you're a fraud who can't afford his own lifestyle, let alone hers. But the engagement, the ring, she's going to leave me. His voice cracked. I smiled. Well, at least now you know what it's like to have something stolen from you. Sucks, doesn't it? Tyler blinked rapidly, swallowing hard, his hands clenched into fists. He had nothing to say. The next few hours were complete chaos. Aunt Diane crying on my couch, Uncle Greg pacing, making calls to his golf club connections for loans. Tyler having what looked like a panic attack. Jason just sitting there, staring at nothing. Then came the text from Jessica. Is it true? About the money? I didn't even respond. Just turned my phone toward Tyler and let him see it. He looked at his phone, then at me, defeated. What do I tell her? I don't care, I said. Not my problem anymore. Then, Aunt Diane tried one last tactic. Your parents would be ashamed of you. The room went silent. I walked to my bedroom, came back with a folder. Inside, letters from my parents detailing exactly how the trust should be used. For genuine family emergencies. For education. For health issues. Not for golf memberships and luxury vacations. I let them read in silence. Then I spoke. My parents worked their entire lives to build something real. They set this up to help family in need, not to fund leeches. You want to talk about shame? They'd be ashamed of you. Diane crumpled. This time, the sobbing was real. She barely made it back home from my apartment before the consequences started rolling in. The chandelier company called about their overdue balance. Apparently, that fancy imported piece of overpriced glass and metal they just had to have wasn't fully paid off. The check bounced. The workers came the next morning to take it down. Greg got a call too. His beloved golf club, the one where he pretended to be a big-shot businessman while selling insurance, canceled his membership. Turns out, when you don't pay your dues, you don't get to keep playing on their pristine, overpriced grass. But the biggest collapse? Tyler. His engagement with Jessica imploded when he finally had to sit her down and confess that his wealth was nothing more than smoke and mirrors. Jessica, bless her heart, had apparently assumed that his life of first-class vacations and luxury cars came from his success, not from a trust fund he never even knew existed until it was gone. So the engagement party? Canceled. The destination wedding? Never happening. I heard all of this secondhand from Jason, who had the common sense to realize that maybe I wasn't the villain in this story. Unlike the rest of them, Jason actually listened when I cut them off. He didn't try to fight it, didn't beg or scream or threaten. He just disappeared for a while. Meanwhile, Diane and Greg were scrambling to refinance their house. But with their credit history, years of spending like royalty while carrying mountains of debt, no bank wanted to touch them. 2 weeks later, I drove past their house in my so-called trash car. Diane was standing outside in a robe, arms crossed, watching as workers took down her precious chandelier. She didn't notice me. She was too busy watching her world crumble. I didn't feel bad, not even a little, because while their house was falling apart, I had finally moved into mine, my parents' old home, the one they lived in before they bought the bigger place, the one that actually had history in it. That wasn't just a showpiece for fake status. I had bought it, in cash, and now it was mine. No mortgage, no debt, no parasites leeching off me. It's been 7 months. That's how long it's been since I dropped the hammer and walked away from the mess that used to be my so-called family. 7 months since I stopped paying for people who treated me like garbage. And damn, it feels good. I quit the gas station job. No more scanning lottery tickets for desperate gamblers or dealing with drunk idiots at 2 a.m. The last time I clocked out, I didn't even look back. That place was never meant to be permanent. It was just something to do while my money kept the leeches fed. But now that they were cut off, now that I didn't have to be their walking ATM, I had options. So I took one. For years, I'd been good with cars. My dad used to teach me when I was a kid how to change oil, replace brake pads, diagnose engine problems. It was never just a hobby, though. I enjoyed it. Working with my hands, solving problems, getting things running again. So I took what was left of the trust money, the money I wasn't wasting on ungrateful people, and I put it into something real. I opened my own auto repair shop. I called it Honest Mechanic, because if there was one thing I'd learned from my family, it was how sick people were of getting lied to. Turns out, when you don't scam customers, when you don't upsell them fake repairs, when you just do the damn job right, people appreciate that. Who would have thought? Started with just me. One guy, one rented garage, a couple of used lifts, and a sign that barely fit over the entrance. Within 2 months, I was swamped with work. Word spread. People liked having a mechanic who wasn't out to bleed them dry. By month 4, I had 2 other guys working with me, and we were profitable. My financial advisor even told me it was rare for a new business to turn a profit that fast. And then came Vanessa. I needed someone to handle the front desk, scheduling, managing orders, making sure I didn't waste time dealing with idiots who don't know their car needs an oil change. I hired Vanessa, and let me tell you, this woman runs the place like a damn CEO. Mid-20s, sharp as hell, and yeah, I won't lie, drop dead gorgeous. But unlike Jessica, she doesn't need a guy with money to make her feel important. Customers love her. My guys listen to her. And she doesn't fawn over me or try to flirt her way into an easy ride. She respects me. When she talks to me, it's boss to boss. I'm not saying I'm interested, but if I were, at least this time it'd be with someone who actually saw value in me before the money. Now, every morning I wake up, drive to my own business, and spend the day working on cars. Real work. Meanwhile, my family? They're still crashing. Uncle Greg lost the house first. Couldn't refinance, couldn't catch up on payments, and the bank wasn't in the business of giving second chances to people who spent every dime they had trying to impress strangers. Last I heard, he's working as a sales associate at a hardware store. I actually ran into him once while buying supplies for the shop. He saw me, froze, then turned around and walked the other way. Diane. Her pride took the hardest hit. She was so used to being the queen of her little world, the well-dressed, well-manicured lady of the house. Now, she's working as a receptionist at a dental office. No more brunches, no more fancy shopping trips. She takes the bus to work. I see her sometimes at the stop when I drive by. She keeps her head down. And Jason? I'll give him credit. He actually took this as a wake-up call. He went back to school, working toward an associate's degree in accounting. He even sent me a text a few months ago. You were right about everything. I'm sorry. I didn't respond. Not because I hate him, but because I'm not ready for that yet. Then there's Tyler. He had the biggest fall of them all. Turns out, when you spend years lying about your status, pretending you have powerful connections, and flexing wealth that was never yours, people notice when the money dries up. His law firm dug into his client list and found out half of it was bullshit. They fired him. Now, he's bartending downtown, living in a tiny apartment with 2 roommates. The BMW he used to show off, repossessed 3 months after I cut them off. Oh, and Jessica? Dumped his ass right after the engagement party got canceled. Apparently, she wasn't interested in wedding vows that included for richer or poorer. I heard she moved back in with her parents. Guess Tyler wasn't such an upgrade after all. He doesn't post on social media anymore. The only contact I've had was a Christmas card from Diane and a birthday text from Jason. That's it. Some relationships? Not worth saving. But there was one person who did try to come back. Jessica. 2 months after everything went down, she walked into my shop like nothing happened. No warning, no text. Just waltzed in like she still had a place in my life. She glanced around, taking it all in. Your place looks great. I didn't stop working. Didn't even look up. I wanted to talk. Maybe explain my side of things. That got me to look at her. No designer clothes, no flashy jewelry, just jeans, a t-shirt, and a nervous expression. Your side? I laughed. You dumped me after one dinner, dated my cousin, got engaged to him in record time, and then ghosted me. Which part needs explaining? She swallowed hard. I made a mistake. No kidding. Tyler seemed so successful, so confident. Your family made you sound like you had no ambition, no future. I was stupid and shallow. I said, yeah, you were. She blinked, probably expecting me to comfort her. To say, no, it's okay, I understand, I didn't. I miss you, she tried. The way things were before. Simple dates, real conversations, just us. You miss me now that you know I have money? I laughed. That's not fair. I didn't know about any of that. But you knew me, and that should have been enough. Her eyes watered, calculated, not real. Can we just start over? Her voice was careful, like she knew the answer but was hoping I'd prove her wrong. Before I could answer, Vanessa poked her head in from the office. Hey boss, just a heads up. Client with the Mustang is here. Want me to handle it? Jessica's face shifted. She hadn't noticed Vanessa before, and the second she did, she knew. This wasn't a dingy gas station anymore. This wasn't broke, desperate Ethan. I wasn't waiting around, hoping for her approval. I wiped my hands on a rag and stood up straight. Nah, I don't do charity cases, Jessica. Not even for old times' sake. Her confident little smirk faltered. She glanced at Vanessa, then back at me, probably realizing she had already been replaced by someone smarter, hotter, and actually loyal. You don't mean that, she muttered. I laughed, sharp and short. Yeah, I do. She swallowed hard. For the first time ever, Jessica was speechless. So that's it? She whispered. Just like that? Just like that. I didn't wait for her to say anything else. Just turned to Vanessa. Take care of Mustang guy. Let's get that tune-up done by noon. Vanessa nodded, smirking as she glanced at Jessica before walking off. Jessica turned, her posture stiff, and walked out the door. I didn't watch her leave. I had better things to do. The biggest lesson I learned? Don't set yourself on fire to keep others warm. Now, I wake up every day, walk into my own shop, drive home to my house, and make my own choices. And it feels damn good. Edit. Since so many are asking, yes, I'm genuinely happy now. Not in that fake social media way, but in that quiet contentment way where you go to bed feeling good about your choices. It took a while to get here, but it was worth it. Edit 2. To the guy who asked if I'd help my family if they were literally about to be homeless. I don't know, man. That's a bridge I'll cross if I come to it, but it would be with very clear boundaries this time. Story 3. This story is titled, My Girlfriend Said, You're Not My Priority. So I ghosted her and left. Now she is broke and homeless and begging for me to come back. So I've been gatekeeping this story for a while, but fuck it. Time to let it all out. Fair warning, this is gonna be a long one. Looking back now, I was the biggest fucking sucker in the world. The signs that my relationship was trash were literally everywhere, but I was too love blind to see any of them. Classic simp behavior, I know. From day one, Melissa became my whole damn world. I'm 27, she's 25, and we met at my buddy's housewarming party. I'm usually the careful type, never the dude who jumps into relationships without thinking shit through. I've always been that guy who takes his time, weighs the pros and cons. But with Melissa, holy shit. She had this way of pulling me in that I couldn't resist. She wasn't even trying. That's what made it so deadly. She made me laugh like nobody else. She had this weird-ass sense of humor that just clicked with mine. She could make the most random Tuesday night feel like a fucking holiday. And she was hot as hell too, which didn't hurt. The kind of girl that makes your friends text you, "Damn bro, how'd you land her?" after meeting her for the first time. So because I was so damn into her, I went all in. Like full throttle, no holding back. I always put her first. Didn't matter if I was working 12-hour shifts that week or had important shit to handle. If she needed me, I dropped everything and was there. That promotion I was gunning for? Passed it up because she wanted me to go on this weekend trip with her and her friends. My best friend's bachelor party? Left early because she wasn't feeling well and wanted me to come over. I paid attention to all the little details about her too. Her favorite food, how she liked her coffee, which movies made her cry, anything with dogs, which side of the bed she needed to sleep on. Right side always with the fan on medium. I planned surprise dates, got her thoughtful gifts, not just on birthdays and shit, but random Wednesdays just to show I was thinking about her. She was the first thing I thought about. I basically built my entire fucking life around her. My choices, my time, my future plans, everything had her at the center. I was even looking at engagement rings, thinking she was the one. And for the longest time, I thought she was just as invested as me. That was the lie I kept telling myself. The cold truth? She never showed the exact same energy I poured in that stupid-ass relationship. She just enjoyed being mine and attention. When we first started dating, things were awesome. We'd been together for about 2 years total before everything went to shit. She moved into my place about a year in, the house I actually own and pay the mortgage on myself. I covered everything. Mortgage, bills, groceries, even her damn car insurance and cell phone bill. I was even helping her with tuition payments. She was finishing her degree and working part-time at this coffee shop, so I figured I was investing in our future together. It's temporary, I told myself. Once she graduates and gets a real job, things will even out. Spoiler alert, they never did. In the beginning, it was seriously awesome. Melissa was funny, sweet, full of energy. We spent weekends exploring new places, binging shows, fucking like rabbits, just enjoying being together. But then, things started changing, and I was too much of a dumbass to notice. It's crazy how you can miss so many red flags when you're wearing rose-colored glasses. Like how she never once offered to pay for anything, even after her parents sent her money. Or how she'd talk about her house and her kitchen when I was the one paying for all of it. Or how she'd make these little comments about my friends being boring or my job being so corporate, while happily spending the money from that corporate job. The worst part? She loved telling everyone what a great boyfriend I was. She'd post these long-ass captions on Instagram about how lucky she was, how I was the best boyfriend ever, with pictures of the gifts I got her or the trips I paid for. Her friends thought I was amazing. My friends thought she was amazing. Everyone thought we were this perfect couple. But behind closed doors, that's where the truth was. And I was too blind to see it. I kept making excuses for her. When she'd bail on plans with my family to hang with her friends, I'd tell myself, she's just independent. When she'd spend hundreds on clothes but forget to chip in for groceries, I'd think she's still figuring out adulting. When she'd roll her eyes at things that were important to me, I'd convince myself we just have different interests. I was making excuses for her because I didn't want to face the truth that maybe, just maybe, I loved her way more than she loved me. And the thing is, it wasn't like she was some evil mastermind. She wasn't twirling her villain mustache, plotting how to use me. She just took, and I just gave over and over and over again. It became our dynamic. She expected me to give everything, and I expected nothing in return. That's the fucked up part about love sometimes. You can convince yourself that's what it's supposed to be like. But the signs weren't huge red flags smacking me in the face at first. Just little things I chose to ignore because I didn't want to face the reality that I was being played like a damn fiddle. At first, Melissa started getting more distant. Not super obvious, just small shit that I brushed off. Like she'd stop waiting for me to eat dinner, even though I texted I was on my way home. Or how she'd be glued to her phone the entire time we were together, giggling at shit other people sent her while barely acknowledging anything I said. I'd be talking about my day and look up to see her eyes hadn't left her screen once. Then she started going out. A lot more. Like 3 to 4 times a week more. She'd say she was hanging with the girls or had study group, and I didn't think much of it at first. I mean, she's entitled to her own life, right? I'm not some controlling asshole. But it became a pattern real quick. Weekends, weeknights, random evenings. I'd get home from a 10-hour workday looking forward to spending time with her, only to find an empty house and a half-assed text saying, "Out with friends, don't wait up." When she did come home, she was either still on her phone or heading straight to bed claiming she was so tired. No, how was your day? No hugs? No love? Nothing. The fucked up part? I was still doing everything around the house too. Cooking, cleaning, laundry, grocery shopping, paying every bill. Meanwhile, she's living rent-free, bill-free, doing whatever the hell she wants, whenever she wants. And I just let it happen. I tried bringing it up once. Stayed calm and everything. Told her I felt like we weren't connecting anymore. And she brushed it off with some bullshit like, "I just need some me time." You're overthinking it. Overthinking? I was busting my ass for this relationship, working 50 plus hours a week to support us, and somehow I was the problem for wanting to feel connected, but I didn't want to seem clingy or controlling, so I dropped it like a dumbass. It got worse from there. I'd wake up on Saturdays to find her already gone. She'd text hours later saying she was with the girls or some vague shit. I stopped asking for details because every time I did, she'd get all defensive and act like I was interrogating her. "Why don't you trust me?" she'd snap, and I'd back off immediately. Classic manipulation, but I couldn't see it at the time, and she never went out of her way for me. Not like I did for her. I'd plan these thoughtful dates, and she'd say, "That's sweet," but never return the favor. When I was dealing with stress at work, my boss was a complete dickhead. She'd text, "I'm here for you," but never actually show up. When my dad got sick and had to go to the hospital, she went to brunch with her friends instead of coming with me because hospitals freak me out. I remember this one time I spent almost a month planning her birthday. Made reservations at this fancy restaurant she'd been dying to try, got tickets to her favorite band, even coordinated with her friends for this whole surprise thing. Cost me nearly $1,000 all in, but I thought it was worth it to see her happy. You know what she did for my birthday a month later? Bought me a fucking $50 gift card from Amazon, and spent half the night at dinner on her phone texting her friends. When I looked disappointed, she had the nerve to ask, "What? I got you a present." The way she said it, with that pouty face, like she deserved a standing ovation for remembering my birthday, existed. Meanwhile, I'm standing there holding a gift card with the digital receipt still attached, showing she bought it that morning. Real thoughtful, babe. The inequality in our relationship was insane looking back. If I was even 10 minutes late coming home when she wanted to go somewhere, she'd be pissed for hours. But she could disappear for an entire evening without warning, and I was supposed to be cool with it. If I wanted to hang with my boys on a Saturday, I had to clear it with her a week in advance. She'd make plans with her friends while we were literally in the middle of doing something else and just bounce. I started noticing other weird shit too. How her girls' nights always seemed to involve a lot of guys in the pictures she'd get tagged in. How she'd always position her phone away from me when texting. How she'd get all dressed up. I'm talking full makeup, sexy outfit, the works. For study group. How she'd come home at 2 a.m., smelling like alcohol and cologne that wasn't mine. I started having these knots in my stomach every time she went out. That gut feeling something wasn't right. But I kept pushing it down, telling myself I was being paranoid. What pissed me off is that all of my friends saw it. My buddy Kyle pulled me aside at a BBQ and was like, dude, are you okay? Melissa seems not that into this. And I defended her. I actually got mad at him, told him he didn't understand our relationship. My sister straight up told me Melissa was using me as an ATM, and I didn't talk to her for 2 weeks after that. That's how deep in denial I was. I was paying this chick's entire life housing, food, bills, even her fucking tuition payments while she was treating me like an annoying roommate she occasionally had to be nice to, and I couldn't see it. Or maybe I didn't want to see it, because seeing it would mean admitting I'd been played, that the relationship I'd invested 2 years of my life in, thousands of dollars, and all of my emotional energy was a sham. That's a hard pill to swallow, but reality has a way of smacking you in the face eventually. My buddy once asked me if our relationship died suddenly or over time. Truth is, it was both. Like a frog in slowly boiling water, I didn't realize I was being cooked alive until it was too late. Melissa had always been kinda selfish, but for a long time it didn't register, because she'd still do the bare minimum relationship stuff. She still said, I love you, and would occasionally do something nice for me if it didn't inconvenience her too much. She still acted like we were a team when other people were around. But behind closed doors, things kept getting worse. Then the plans we made started meaning nothing to her. We'd agree to watch a movie Friday night, and come Friday, she'd suddenly have forgotten and made plans with her friends. When I'd remind her about our plans, she'd sigh dramatically like I was being such a burden. Can't we just do it tomorrow instead? She'd say, already dressed to go out. And when we were together, which was becoming rare, she'd act like being with me was some kind of chore she had to endure. She'd constantly check the time, be on her phone, or bring up how much fun she was missing elsewhere. And whenever I called her out on her attitude, she'd gaslight the shit out of me. You're too sensitive, or it's all in your head, or my personal favorite, you're being controlling. And the silent treatment? She was a master at that. If I did anything that annoyed her, didn't buy the exact brand of whatever she wanted, questioned her about coming home at 3 a.m., asked her to maybe chip in for groceries occasionally, she'd go cold, wouldn't speak to me, wouldn't look at me, would act like I wasn't even in the room. It could last for days, and I'd end up apologizing just to make it stop, even when I had done nothing wrong. It was fucking exhausting. My mental health was circling the drain. I couldn't sleep, couldn't focus at work, and was constantly on edge, wondering which version of her I'd be coming home to. Would she even be there? Would she talk to me? Or would I get the cold shoulder over some invisible offense? I started getting these stress headaches that wouldn't quit, lost weight because my appetite was shot, and my work performance tanked. And that just piled more stress on me, because I needed that job to keep the roof over her head and the car she drove in her name. Through all of it, she just kept taking. Never once asked if I was okay or noticed I was unraveling at the seams. As long as the bills were paid and she could do whatever the hell she wanted, I might as well have been a ghost. That's when the gears started turning in my head. The internal war kicked off. I started asking myself the hard questions. Was I really going to keep living like this? Letting someone suck me dry emotionally, mentally, and financially? Was I being weak for staying, or selfish for thinking about leaving? For a while, I fought it. Told myself I'd be a jerk for walking out. That relationships take work, patience, sacrifice. But even the strongest man can only carry dead weight for so long before it drags him under. And I was done drowning. I was already checked off. So I started thinking about the exit plan. How do I leave without burning the whole place down? Do I start small, pull back bit by bit, or rip the band-aid off and walk? Would she even care? Or would it just be my pride that hurt? I didn't want to be the guy who gave up, but I also wasn't going to be the idiot who stayed in a losing game. The truth? I was already halfway gone in my head. My body just hadn't caught up yet. And then came the night that pushed me the rest of the way. It wasn't some dramatic blow-up. No catching her in the act, no screaming match, no slamming doors. Though if I had to bet, cheating was probably in the mix. But nah, the thing that opened my eyes was small, simple, but it hit harder than any slap to the face. It was the kind of moment that doesn't just sting, it leaves a mark. It was a Friday night. I'd been grinding all week, late nights at the office, closing out a massive project. Exhausted wasn't even the word, but I wasn't about to crash on the couch like some beaten down dude. Nah, I had one last move to make. I wasn't looking for quality time. I was looking to flip the script, to let her know, without saying it outright, that I was already mentally out of this relationship. I walked into the house around 6, dropped my keys on the counter, and heard her music blasting from the bedroom. I already knew what that meant. She was getting ready to head out. Again. Another night with the girls, which, judging by the Instagram photos, also included some random dudes. Third weekend in a row, third time I'd be left sitting alone in my own damn house, like some afterthought. I knocked once and pushed open the bedroom door. She was there, standing in front of the mirror in nothing but her underwear, applying makeup like she was about to walk a damn runway. Normally, I would have taken a second to appreciate the view. Not tonight. Tonight, I wasn't here to admire anything. Hey, I said, my tone easy, casual. Just another guy wanting to spend the night in, right? Was thinking we could stay in tonight. Order some food, throw on a movie. Just chill. Been a while since we had a night to ourselves. She didn't even glance at me. Didn't pause, didn't flinch. Just kept applying that mascara like I wasn't even standing there. Can't. Promised the girls I'd meet them at Ashley's. We're hitting that new club downtown after. The girls. Always the girls. Funny how the girls had more male friends in their Instagram photos than a damn frat house. I kept my voice calm, my stance easy, leaning against the doorframe like I had all the time in the world. Yeah? Thought maybe you'd want to catch up. We've barely crossed paths all week. I come home, and you're either gone or heading out the door. She finally glanced at me in the mirror, an annoyed flicker in her eyes. It's not my fault you work so much. And there it was. That little jab. She knew why I was working so much. To keep this house, to pay her tuition, her car, the bills she didn't even acknowledge. Everything she had was because I was busting my ass. But sure, let's throw that back in my face. I nodded, slow. Let the silence hang for a second. Then I said, relationships take work too. Just thought maybe we should make time for that. That's when she turned, mascara wand in hand, like I was nothing but an inconvenience in her night. And then she dropped the line that sealed it. You're not my priority right now, okay? I have other things going on. The way she tossed those words at me, casual as fuck, like she was telling me we were out of milk, while applying mascara for probably some other dude to appreciate. Chef's kiss of disrespect. Absolute masterclass in how to nuke a relationship in 10 words or less. 2 years, down to that one sentence. A whole relationship boiled down to me not even ranking on her list. I didn't move, didn't say a word for a moment, just stood there, letting it land, letting her hear how silent I could be when I was done caring. What did you just say? I asked. Not because I didn't hear it, but because I wanted her to hear it again. I wanted her to really think about what she'd just thrown at me. She sighed, turning back to the mirror, her voice full of that same casual dismissal. Don't be so dramatic. I already have plans. We can hang out tomorrow or whatever. And that was it. The moment. The final nail. After everything I'd done, after every time I put her first, I wasn't even an afterthought. I was a placeholder, an ATM with a heartbeat. I didn't yell, didn't argue. That would have given her too much credit. No, I just stood there, watching her reflection, wondering how I ever let it get this far. How I let her think she could walk all over me and I'd just keep taking it. But that was the last time she'd talk to me like I was nothing. Fine, I said, voice steady, calm. Go have fun. And I meant it. Go have fun, Melissa. Enjoy it while you can. Because the man standing in front of you? He's already gone. I will, she replied, not even picking up on my tone. She just kept applying her makeup like we'd been discussing the weather, not the death of our relationship. She left about 20 minutes later. Didn't even say goodbye properly, just yelled later as the front door slammed. I stood in the kitchen, listening to her car pull out of the driveway, and felt this weird sense of calm wash over me, like something had finally clicked into place. I opened a soda and sat on the couch, just thinking, replaying the last few months in my head. All the times she'd blown me off. All the girls' nights that mysteriously included dudes I'd never met. All the times I'd felt like an afterthought in my own relationship. I pulled out my phone and started scrolling through our text history. It was fucking eye-opening. Pages and pages of me checking in, asking about her day, telling her I missed her, making plans. Her responses were always short, often hours later, frequently canceling or changing plans we'd made. I'd send paragraph-long messages when she was going through something, offering support and love. She'd send back the X or a thumbs-up emoji. It was all right there in black and white. The evidence of her not giving a shit had been in my pocket the whole time. Frustrated, I locked my phone and tossed it on the couch. But boredom pulled me back in. I opened Instagram, aimlessly flipping through stories, trying to numb the frustration that was burning under my skin. I saw one of Melissa's friends posting clips from their night out. Dim lights, loud music, people laughing, drinking, grinding on the dance floor. The whole vibe of the club screamed chaos. My thumb hovered for a second before I swiped up and sent a casual message. Melissa having a good time? I asked. No emotion, no edge. Just a simple question. A few minutes later, the friend replied, "Yeah, she's great. Totally vibing tonight. Cool." I left it on read. Then the next story dropped, and there she was. Melissa, on the dance floor, grinding on some guy with his shirt half open, his abs on full display. She was laughing, arms draped around his neck like she didn't have a boyfriend at home, like she didn't have someone paying her bills, covering her tuition, and keeping a roof over her head. And just like that, the switch flipped. I locked my phone, tossed it on the coffee table, and leaned back, letting it all sink in. I wasn't going to argue, wasn't going to blow up her phone or pull some dramatic confrontation. What would be the point? She'd already made her choice, long before tonight. All that was left was for me to make mine. About an hour later, I heard the key in the door. She stumbled in, laughing at something on her phone. Not a care in the world. She didn't even notice me sitting there in the dim light. "Have fun?" I asked, my voice calm, steady. She jumped, almost dropping her purse. "Jesus, you scared me." She giggled, but it was forced. She looked rough, makeup smudged, hair a mess. "Why are you sitting in the dark like some creep?" I shrugged. "Just thinking." She started walking towards the bedroom, already brushing me off like she always did, like I was some roommate she tolerated. "Thinking about what?" She tossed over her shoulder. I watched her, leaning back, arms stretched across the back of the couch. Relaxed. Cool. The kind of calm that comes when you've already decided you're done playing games. "About how easy it is to lose respect for someone," I said. "Not bitter. Just facts." She paused, glancing back. "What's that supposed to mean?" I didn't move. Didn't blink. Nothing. Just an observation. She sighed, the irritation rolling off her. "Can we not do this right now? I'm tired and drunk, and I just want to go to bed." "Yeah," I said, standing up, my voice calm but sharp. "Bet you are. All that hands-on cardio must be wearing you out." That made her freeze. She blinked, confusion flickering in her eyes. "What are you talking about?" I smiled. "You know what I'm talking about, Melissa." She opened her mouth, ready to lie. I saw it in her face, ready to tell me just fun, just friends. But I didn't give her the chance. I didn't need her excuses. I didn't need her fake tears or weak apologies. I was done playing that game. "I'm not in the mood for stories," I said flatly. "Go to bed." She hesitated, like she was waiting for me to start a fight because she knew she was doing something wrong out there. But there wasn't going to be one. She didn't deserve that energy anymore. She wasn't worth it. After that night, I didn't just stop caring. I cut the cord. Hard. I went full ghost mode in my own house. I wasn't about to waste energy on someone who had already shown me where I ranked in her life. Text during the day? Dead. Asking about her classes? Done. Picking up her favorite snacks? Making dinner? Folding her laundry? Asking where she was headed or when she'd be back? Over. Why bother? If I wasn't her priority, she sure as hell wasn't going to be mine. She didn't deserve that version of me anymore. But I didn't stop there. I started cutting the strings that tied her to the life I was paying for. I logged into every account, car insurance, phone bill, her streaming services. Gone. I cut her off clean. No more free ride on my dime. I wasn't going to fund her nights out, her drunk Ubers, or her endless shopping sprees while she was acting single in public and treating me like an afterthought in private. Her tuition payments? Canceled. She wanted independence. She was about to get it. At first, she didn't even clock it. Too wrapped up in her own world to notice that her personal butler and private banker had gone off duty. But after a week, she started noticing the shift. Noticed that the man who once made her the center of his world had stopped orbiting around her. The looks she gave me were subtle at first. Confused, testing, like she was trying to figure out what was off, but couldn't quite put her finger on it. "You've been quiet lately," she said one night, sitting at the far end of the couch, her eyes flicking between me and her phone. I shrugged, not even looking up. "Have I?" "Yeah." "Is something wrong?" I let the silence hang, then finally looked up at her. Calm. Unbothered. "Nothing that matters to you." Her brows pulled together. "What's that supposed to mean?" I tilted my head, smirking slightly. "It means exactly what it sounds like. If it's not your priority, why would you care?" Her eyes widened as the realization hit her. I was throwing her own words back in her face, and it landed harder than she expected. "Are you seriously still upset about that?" "It was just a comment. I didn't mean it." "Sure," I said, standing up. "Whatever you say." And just like that, I walked out of the room, completely unbothered, leaving her sitting there, confused and uncomfortable in the silence. The next few days, I kept the pressure on. Or more like, I kept the pressure off. I was just absent. Physically there, but mentally? Checked out. She'd try to start conversations, and I'd give her cold, one-word replies. She'd suggest we go out, and I'd shrug. "Nah, busy." She'd ask if I was mad, and I'd just say, nope, just respecting your priorities. And when she finally noticed her phone bill didn't go through, when her car insurance company called her instead of me, when she tried logging into Netflix and realized it wasn't her account anymore, she didn't say anything at first, just got quiet, confused. The kind of confusion that creeps in when someone realizes the safety net they took for granted is gone. Watching her squirm was almost entertaining. Confusion turned into frustration. Frustration turned into desperation. She wasn't used to being ignored, wasn't used to not being the center of my universe. The more I pulled away, the harder she reached. Meanwhile, I focused on me. I hit the gym every day after work, not because I wanted to look good for her, but because I was done looking like I gave a damn. Started hanging with my boys again, the ones she called boring, because they didn't fit into her little social game. Got back into my hobbies. Spent my evenings doing whatever the hell I wanted for once. I wasn't living for her anymore. I was living for me. And damn, it felt good. Then, like clockwork, she started trying. Coming home earlier, suddenly bringing back my favorite takeout, asking about my day and actually waiting for an answer, dropping little compliments, trying to cozy up to me on the couch. But it was too late. I'd seen enough, heard enough. She was just playing catch up, and I wasn't on that field anymore. But I let her keep trying, let her sweat, let her feel what it was like to reach for someone who wasn't reaching back. One night, she cracked, came at me with tears in her eyes, voice shaking like she was the victim. I don't understand what's happening, she said. Why are you being like this? I kept my expression flat, cold. You made it clear, Melissa. I'm not your priority. You've got other things going on. So now I'm focusing on my priorities. And honestly, you're not one of them. Her face crumbled. But that's not fair. I said one thing, one time, and now you're punishing me for it. I laughed hard. Not because it was funny, but because it was pathetic. One thing? Melissa, you've been showing me I wasn't a priority for months. Every time you blew me off. Every time you took advantage of me. Every time you looked at me like I was just there. Like I didn't matter. I stepped closer, my voice low and final. I paid for this house. Paid your car insurance. Paid for the food you eat, the bills that keep the lights on, your damn tuition. And all I got in return? You're not my priority. Well, message received, loud and fucking clear. She broke. The tears came fast, messy, like they always did when she realized control was slipping through her fingers. I didn't mean it like that, she cried, her voice trembling. I was stressed. I wasn't thinking. I love you. But I wasn't buying it. I stood there, watching her fall apart, and felt nothing. Just cold clarity. She could cry rivers, but I wasn't about to drown in them again. In that moment, the plan clicked into place. I wasn't going to fight. I'd let her cry, let her think she still had time to fix it, and then I'd disappear. Quiet, clean. She wasn't worth the drama. She wanted me to be an option. I'd show her how it feels when that option just vanishes. The very next day, I got up at 5 a.m., packed my essentials, and bounced while she was still snoring. By sunrise, I was gone. No note, no explanation. Just a text. You don't have to worry about me being your priority anymore. I'm gone. And I just disappeared. She blew up my phone, calls, texts, didn't pick up, didn't reply. Silence is golden, and it was time she learned that. First, she hit me with the classics. Are you serious? You're being so dramatic. This is childish. Nah, what's childish is thinking I'd stick around after being treated like a side quest in her life. Then came the desperation. Let's talk. Please don't do this. I didn't mean it. Yeah, you did. And now? I'm done. I crashed at my buddy Kyle's for a bit, locked down a new apartment, and went full ghost mode. Changed passwords, cut her off my credit card, and gave her parents the heads up that tuition's now their problem. Felt like deleting old files off a hard drive. Clean, necessary, satisfying. Freedom hit different. No more draining energy on a one-sided relationship. A month later, mutual friends told me she was spiraling, struggling with car payments, dropping classes, couch surfing. Her parents told her to grow up before moving back home. I felt nothing. But 4 months in, she showed up at my new spot. No idea how she found the address. She looked wrecked, skinny, tired, all that confidence she used to flex, gone. Please, she said. I've changed. I miss you. I messed up. I just stared. Yeah, you did. Can we try again? I'll prove it to you. You're my priority now. Priority? I said, tilting my head like I was genuinely confused. What are you talking about, Melissa? You stopped being on my radar a long time ago. I don't even remember what it felt like to care. She broke down, crying, begging, throwing out empty promises that she'd be different, that she'd change. But me? I felt like the weight had already been lifted, and she was the only one still holding on. You should go, I said, my voice calm, almost bored. There's nothing for you here. Not anymore. I closed the door. Her sobbing on the other side? Not my problem anymore. And damn, it felt good. Freeing. Like dropping a weight I didn't know I was carrying. A few weeks later, I met that badass chick. Real one. Genuine, thoughtful, actually knows how to be a partner. She says I'm a priority, and she means it. Shows it every day. Game changer. Word got out. Melissa heard. She went nuts. Started showing up at places I might be, texting me from random numbers after I blocked her old one. Desperation looks bad on anyone. I ignored it. I was done with her games. Last I heard, she dropped out of school and moved back home. Her life? Mess. Mine? Better than ever. Funny how it works. She thought I was replaceable. Turns out she was. And now she gets to live with that. People ask if I regret it. If I'm ever tempted to reach out. Nah. Leaving was the best decision I ever made. Because when someone shows you they don't care, believe them. And then make damn sure they're not your problem anymore. Story 4. This story is titled, My Parents Skipped My Graduation to Help My Golden Child Sister Move. So I cut them off. Now they're desperate for my help. Hey everyone. Before we jump into today's video, I need your help. We've noticed the channel is losing some traction, and subscribing is one of the best ways you can support us. It's quick, free, and it helps us keep bringing you awesome content. Your support means the world. Let's keep this channel growing together. Thanks so much. Now let's start the video. I guess I should start from the beginning. You guys ever feel like an NPC in your own life? Like you're just kinda there while everyone else is the main character? I'm Ryan, 22 male, and that's pretty much how it's always been in my family. It's weird typing this out, but it feels good to finally tell someone who might actually listen. My younger sister Jenna, 20 female, has always been the golden child. And I don't mean like she occasionally got special treatment. I mean she was always the priority. Every single time. It's like my parents decided when we were little that she was the one worth investing in. And I was just there. When I was 10, I won this math competition. It was district-wide and pretty tough. I was super excited to tell my parents because math was my thing. And I finally had something to be proud of. I remember running home with my medal, only to find them fussing over Jenna's dance recital outfit. I stood there for like 5 minutes before they even noticed me. When I showed them the medal, my dad just said, "That's nice," and went right back to helping Jenna. I remember sitting in my room that night staring at the medal and wondering why I even bothered. That's just one example. There's so many more. When I was 14, I deliberately didn't tell them I had a school presentation, just to see if they'd ask. They didn't. Meanwhile, Jenna came home the same week talking about some dumb history poster project, and my mom literally stayed up until 2 a.m. helping her glue pictures to it. I used to vent to my girlfriend, I'll call her Megan, about this stuff, but she never really got it. "Come on, it's not that bad," she'd say. "Your parents just love Jenna a lot. She's the youngest. Of course they dote on her." Like I was overreacting. Like I wasn't watching my own family pretend I didn't exist. I remember when I turned 16, my dad promised to teach me to drive. He talked about it for months, how it was this father-son tradition and stuff. But then Jenna needed help with some science project, and suddenly Dad had no time for driving lessons. My Uncle Rick ended up teaching me instead. My dad didn't even seem to care. Take also my high school graduation. One of those proud parent moments, mine showed up 20 minutes late. I already had my diploma in hand, standing on the stage for a group photo. I saw them sneaking in the back like it was a casual lunch date they were late for. No photos, no cheers, just my dad whispering, "Jenna's game ran long." Cool. Guess volleyball trumps a once-in-a-lifetime event? My college acceptance letter came the same day Jenna got asked to prom by some football dude. Guess which one got celebrated with a special dinner? I tried talking to them about it once when I was 19. Big mistake. My mom got all defensive and said I was being selfish and that family supports each other. Dad just sat there nodding along like a damn bobblehead. The message was crystal clear. Jenna's needs are more important than Ryan's needs. Always. It messes with your head, you know? Growing up knowing you're the afterthought in your own family, you start to expect disappointment. You train yourself not to get your hopes up. And honestly, when someone actually does show up for you, it feels so weird that you don't even know how to react. Uncle Rick was pretty much the only one who ever saw what was happening. He's my dad's older brother, and he'd pull me aside at family gatherings sometimes and say stuff like, "I see what's happening here, kid, and it's not right." He was the only one who ever validated what I was feeling. Everyone else acted like I was crazy or too sensitive. So anyway, fast forward to college. I busted my ass for 4 years in computer science. Worked part-time, maintained a 3.9 GPA, even made some connections through networking events. I was pretty proud of myself, especially since I'd done it mostly on my own. For some stupid reason, I thought my college graduation would be different. That maybe this big milestone would be the one where they'd actually put me first for once. Like, this was it, their chance to show me they cared. So about 2 weeks before my graduation, I reminded my parents about the ceremony. I was like, hey, so graduation's on the 15th at 10 a.m. if you guys still plan on coming. My mom barely looked up from her phone and said, we wouldn't miss it, honey. The day before graduation, I sent a message to our family group chat. Ceremony starts at 10 a.m. tomorrow. Parking gets crazy, so maybe try to arrive by 9:30. No response. But that wasn't unusual with them, so I didn't think much of it. Graduation morning comes around, and I'm getting dressed in my cap and gown. I was nervous, but kinda excited too. Megan was supposed to meet me at my apartment at 8:30 so we could head over together. I checked my phone, half expecting some weak excuse. Megan wasn't technically like my parents, but there had been moments. Times when I'd felt like she was a little too quick to take their side, a little too eager to please my mom. She'd always been the type to smooth things over, to say, it's not a big deal, babe, whenever I got frustrated with them. I pushed the thought down. No way she'd let me down today. By 9 o'clock, she still hadn't shown up. I called her, and there was all this background noise, people talking and laughing. Hey, where are you? We need to go. She hesitates. Oh, something came up. I'm at Jenna's new place. At Jenna's new place. On my graduation morning. I sit down on my bed, rubbing my temple, already knowing where this is going. You're kidding, right? Your mom asked me to help her move. I thought you knew. I froze. Something about the way she said it. It wasn't surprise or guilt. It was just annoyance. Like I was being unreasonable for even questioning it. Like she wasn't surprised to be caught, just irritated that I had a problem with it. And that's when it clicked. She had known. Maybe not consciously, maybe not in a way she would admit, but she had always been fine with this dynamic. Always fine with Jenna coming first. Always fine with my parents acting like I was an afterthought. And for the first time, I realized even my girlfriend wasn't really on my side at all. And the way she thought I knew. Yeah, sure. Just like she thought ditching my college graduation for a moving party was a completely normal thing to do. I couldn't even get mad yet. I was still processing how my own girlfriend had been roped into prioritizing my sister over me. Again. So none of you are coming to my graduation? I asked. I was weirdly calm. Your parents said they might try to make it for the end, she said, like that somehow made it better. Try? Like my graduation was a dentist appointment they were squeezing in. Nah, I said, voice deadpan. Tell them not to bother. They wouldn't want to miss Jenna's housewarming party. She started saying something, but I hung up and just sat on my bed, still in my cap and gown, feeling like complete shit. 4 years of busting my ass, and the people who were supposed to care about me couldn't even show up. Not even my girlfriend. I was about to take off my gown and skip the whole thing when my phone rang. It was Uncle Rick, my dad's older brother. Hey, kiddo, I'm outside your building. Ready to go celebrate that diploma? Uncle Rick had always been the one family member who actually gave a damn about me. He'd made a ton of money from some tech startup he sold years ago, and unlike my parents, he actually seemed to care about what I was doing with my life. Yeah, I said, grabbing my keys. I'm ready. So I ended up going to my graduation after all, but only because of Uncle Rick. When we were driving over, he took one look at my face and knew something was up. Let me guess, he said. They're not coming. I shook my head. They're helping Jenna move into her new apartment, having a party. Megan's there too. He cursed. Those selfish assholes. Then he caught himself. Sorry, Ryan. You deserve better than that. Walking onto that stage, I scanned the crowd like an idiot, still holding on to some dumb hope that maybe, just maybe, they'd shown up last minute. Nothing. Just rows and rows of people hugging their kids, dads clapping their sons on the back, moms crying happy tears. Meanwhile, I'm standing there with my diploma in hand, the only person cheering for me being my uncle, who technically isn't even obligated to give a crap. That's when it really sank in. They didn't just forget me, they made a choice. And the choice was Jenna. After the ceremony, Uncle Rick took me to this fancy steakhouse he'd reserved, like the kind of place where they don't even put prices on the menu. When I walked in wearing my graduation gown, the staff actually applauded, which was embarrassing but kinda nice too. Uncle Rick went all out and got the fanciest thing on the menu. The waiter didn't even ask for my ID. Guess the cap and gown were proof enough that I was officially an adult. I'm proud of you, kid, Uncle Rick said, lifting his glass. Computer science isn't easy, and you crushed it. You're going places, whether they see it or not. It's wild how much those words meant. Out of everything that happened that day, hearing my uncle say he was proud hit the hardest. For once, someone actually saw what I'd accomplished. My uncle has always been straight with me. When I was younger, he'd pull me aside at family gatherings and say stuff like, I see what's happening here, and it's not right. He never sugarcoated things or made excuses for my parents like everyone else did. Halfway through lunch, my phone starts buzzing like crazy. At first, I think maybe it's an apology, that they realized how badly they screwed up. But all I found is, Megan, where are you? Are you coming to Jenna's party after? Mom, sorry we couldn't make it, sweetie, but Jenna's apartment is so nice. You'll love it. Dad, let's do dinner next weekend to celebrate you. Dinner and for the next weekend. Because, wouldn't want to interrupt Jenna's big day with something as minor as my college graduation. I put my phone face down on the table. Uncle Rick sees my expression. Let me guess, he says, cutting into his steak. They're at a party? I nodded. He chews for a second, then shakes his head. Fuh. Eat your steak. After we finished eating, Uncle Rick handed me an envelope. Inside was a check for $50,000 and a business card for some guy named Mark at a tech company in Seattle. Consider it a graduation gift, he said. Mark's looking for fresh talent. He'll give you an interview if you want it. I stared at the check. That was more money than I'd ever seen in my life. Uncle, I can't. You can, and you will, he said firmly. Look, I never had kids of my own. Let me do this for you. Take the money, take the opportunity, and get the hell away from people who don't appreciate you. I hugged him, trying not to get emotional in the middle of a fancy restaurant. Thank you. On the way back to my apartment, I made my decision. I was never going to my family's house again. I took a photo of me and Uncle Rick at the restaurant and posted it on Instagram with the caption, "Huge thanks to the only person who showed up for my graduation. At least now I know who actually cares about me." Then I turned off my phone. I didn't want to deal with any of their responses or excuses. When we got back to my place, Uncle Rick and I talked more about the job in Seattle. It sounded perfect. Junior developer position at a growing company, good salary, chance to move across the country. What about my lease? My stuff? I asked. Uncle Rick waved his hand. Details. We'll figure it out. Question is, do you want a fresh start or not? I thought about how Megan had betrayed me, how my parents had chosen Jenna over me yet again, on what should have been one of the biggest days of my life, how nothing would ever change if I stayed. Yeah, I said. I want a fresh start. We called Mark right then and there. Uncle Rick put him on speaker and introduced me. We talked for about 20 minutes about my projects, my experience, what I was looking for in a job. At the end of the call, Mark said, "How soon can you get out here for an in-person interview?" I looked at my uncle, who gave me a thumbs up. "How about next week?" I said. "Perfect. Rick, send me his resume and I'll have HR set everything up." After we hung up, I felt this weird mix of excitement and nervousness. I was really doing this. Starting over completely. "You're doing the right thing," Uncle Rick said, like he could read my mind. "Sometimes you have to look out for yourself because no one else will." The interview with Mark went way better than I expected. I flew out to Seattle. Uncle Rick paid for the ticket, wouldn't let me argue about it, and the company put me up in this nice hotel downtown. The office was super cool, one of those modern tech spaces with free snacks and standing desks and all that stuff. Mark and I clicked right away. We ended up talking for almost 2 hours, way longer than scheduled. At the end, he was like, "So, when can you start?" Just like that. Junior developer position, 6-figure salary, which blew my mind, plus relocation assistance. I accepted on the spot. The crazy part? I didn't tell anyone about it. Not my parents, not Jenna, and definitely not Megan. I just quietly started packing up my apartment, donated most of my furniture to Goodwill, and loaded what was left into my car. I kept my phone off most of that week. The day before I left, I finally turned it back on to tie up loose ends. Holy shit. 47 missed calls, 93 text messages, voicemails from my parents demanding to know where I was, why I wasn't answering, how I could be so childish about missing one graduation ceremony. Megan's messages were the worst. She went from, "Please talk to me. I know I messed up. Your parents said it would just be an hour, but then everyone started drinking and I couldn't leave," to, "Seriously, Ryan? You're ghosting me over this?" I said I was sorry. "I'm coming over tomorrow. We need to talk about this in person." "Your neighbor said you're moving? Where are you going? Call me." I didn't respond to any of it. Instead, I sent a quick email to my landlord explaining I was breaking my lease and that they could keep the security deposit. Then, I got in my car at 5 a.m. and started the drive to Seattle. It took me 3 days, staying in cheap motels along the way. The whole drive, I kept waiting to feel guilty or sad or something. But honestly, I felt free. Like I was finally escaping this life where I was always second best, always an afterthought. The first month in Seattle was a blur. The company set me up with a temporary apartment while I looked for a place. I found this small but nice apartment downtown, walking distance to work. I threw myself into the job, working long hours, trying to learn everything I could. My boss seemed impressed with how quickly I picked things up. I still talked to Uncle Rick regularly, but as far as everyone else knew, I'd vanished. I changed my number, deleted most of my social media, and created new accounts under slightly different variations of my name. I didn't want to be found. Megan kept trying to reach me through every platform possible: emails, LinkedIn messages, even reaching out to my college friends. I blocked her on everything. My parents tried calling daily for the first few weeks. I listened to some of their voicemails out of curiosity. "This behavior is unacceptable, Ryan," my mom said in one. "We've always supported you, and this is how you repay us? By disappearing and ignoring us? You're breaking your father's heart. And my favorite, your sister misses you. She doesn't understand why you're punishing her for something that wasn't her fault. Please call us back." I deleted them all. The funny thing is, I didn't feel bad about any of it. Not even a little. For the first time in my life, I wasn't constantly waiting for approval or validation that never came. I was just living, focusing on my career, making new friends at work. I even started going to this rock climbing gym nearby. 6 months went by. No contact. I got promoted. Started making actual friends. People who knew nothing about my past or my family drama. Just normal relationships, not tainted by all that baggage. Life was good. Really good. But then came the email from my dad. "We need to talk. It's about your inheritance." I actually laughed out loud when I read it. Inheritance? What inheritance? My parents were comfortable, but they weren't rich by any means. Dad had his accounting firm and mom was a part-time real estate agent. They had a nice house in the suburbs and took a vacation once a year. That was it. Even if they had been wealthy, did they seriously think money would make me come crawling back after everything? I replied with 2 words: not interested. That opened the floodgates. My phone started blowing up again, emails pouring in. My mom texting about how I was throwing away my future and how they'd always planned to help me financially. Like that was supposed to matter to me now? My dad sent this long-ass email about family responsibility and how I was being childish and ungrateful. It was all so fake. They'd had months to apologize, to acknowledge how they'd hurt me. But instead, they were trying to dangle money in front of me like I was some kind of pet who would perform tricks for treats. After a week of this, I finally answered one of Dad's calls. I was sitting at my desk at work on my lunch break when his number popped up for like the 20th time. "What?" I said flatly. "Ryan, thank God." He sounded relieved. "We've been so worried. Where are you? Are you okay?" "I'm fine. What do you want?" He cleared his throat. "Son, we need to discuss your future. Your mother and I have been thinking about our will, and—" "Let me stop you right there," I cut in. "I don't want your money. I don't need your money. I'm doing fine on my own. But Ryan," his voice turned stern like he was talking to a child, "you're not thinking clearly. This inheritance could set you up for life. Don't throw away your future just because you're angry about one missed event." I couldn't help it. I started laughing. "What's so funny?" he demanded. "You still don't get it, do you? It was never about one missed event. It's about a lifetime of being treated like I don't matter. And now you think you can buy your way back into my life? With money I don't even need? What do you mean you don't need it?" He sounded confused. "I mean, I have a great job. I make more than enough money. I'm doing well, no thanks to you or mom." There was silence on the other end. Then, "So that's it? You're just cutting us out of your life forever?" "You cut yourselves out," I said quietly. "I'm just making it official." I hung up. Then I blocked their numbers. All of them. Even Megan, though she'd mostly given up by then. That night, I called Uncle Rick and told him what happened. "They tried to threaten me with my inheritance," I said, still laughing about the whole thing. He chuckled. "Classic move. Your father tried that on me once too, you know." When I told him his business model was outdated— "Wait, seriously?" "Oh yeah. Your grandparents weren't rich, but they had this summer cabin that everyone wanted. Your dad held it over all our heads like some prize to be won. That's why I made my own money, so I'd never have to dance to someone else's tune." I never thought about it like that before. How money was just another way my parents tried to control people. Another form of manipulation. You know what the best revenge is, right? Uncle Rick said. What's that? Success. Living well. Building a life so good they can't help but see what they're missing out on. I liked the sound of that. After I got off the phone, I checked LinkedIn out of curiosity. My dad had viewed my profile multiple times. I could tell he was keeping tabs on me, seeing my job updates, probably trying to figure out where I was living. The thought of him obsessing over my whereabouts while I was happily moving on with my life felt pretty damn good, actually. I updated my LinkedIn that night, added my promotion, some project details, a few professional photos of me at a tech conference. Let him see exactly what he was missing out on. My roommate Dave could tell something was up. You good? He asked when he saw me smirking at my laptop. Yeah, I said. Just dealing with some family drama. The golden child sister and the shitty parents? He asked. I'd told him bits and pieces over beers one night. Yep, they're trying to bribe me back into their lives with some mysterious inheritance. Dave laughed. Dude, that's pathetic. I know, right? The funny part is, I make more money now than they ever will. And before I knew it, 2 years had passed. I went from junior developer to team lead in record time. My boss kept giving me more responsibility because I worked my ass off. I led this huge product launch that actually got some attention in the tech world. I got featured in a couple articles about rising stars in software development. Nothing major, but my face and name were out there. I bought a nice condo overlooking Puget Sound with floor-to-ceiling windows and an actual view. Started making real money, the kind where you don't have to check your bank account before going out to dinner. Dating scene in Seattle was pretty good too. Nothing super serious, but I was meeting interesting people and enjoying myself. Made friends who were into hiking and camping, so we'd take weekend trips to explore Washington State. For the first time ever, I had a life that felt completely mine, not defined by being the forgotten child or anything related to my family. Uncle Rick visited often. He'd crash at my place and we'd hit up the nice restaurants in town. He told me several times how proud he was of what I was building for myself. He was more of a father figure to me than my actual dad ever was. I rarely thought about my family anymore. Occasionally, I'd see something that reminded me of them, but it didn't really hurt anymore. It was more like remembering a bad TV show I'd watched years ago rather than something that had actually happened to me. Then the economy took a nosedive. Tech companies were mostly fine, but a lot of other businesses started struggling. I only knew about my dad's situation because Uncle Rick mentioned it during one of our calls. Your dad's accounting firm isn't doing so hot, he said, sipping his coffee at my kitchen counter. Lost a bunch of clients to bigger firms that could offer lower rates, might have to downsize. I just shrugged. Not my problem. I didn't feel happy about it, but I didn't feel bad either. Just nothing. A month later, I got a LinkedIn message from my dad. Super formal and professional. Ryan, I hope this message finds you well. I've been following your career with interest. Very impressive work with the Streamline AI project. I was wondering if we could connect sometime to discuss potential collaboration opportunities. Hope to hear from you soon. I showed it to my coworker Mike over lunch. He nearly spit out his drink. Dude, is he serious? Potential collaboration opportunities? That's code for I need money, right? I nodded, still staring at the message. Pretty much. What are you gonna do? I closed my laptop. Nothing. But the messages didn't stop there. Next came an email from my mom talking about how proud they were of my success, how they'd always known I would do great things. She mentioned almost casually that they were going through a difficult time financially and that they missed their son. Then Jenna reached out on Instagram. Hey stranger, long time no talk. Look, I know things are weird with us, but mom and dad are really struggling right now. Dad's business is failing, and they might lose the house. I know you're doing really well. Congrats on that, BTW. And I was wondering if maybe you could help them out. They're too proud to ask directly. I didn't respond to any of them. Didn't even mark the messages as read. Mike was fascinated by the whole situation. So your parents ignored you your whole life, chose your sister over you every time, including ditching your college graduation, and now they want you to bail them out? That's some next-level entitlement. Welcome to my family, I said, rolling my eyes. You're not considering it, are you? He asked. Hell no. They made their bed. The truth is, part of me enjoyed seeing the tables turn. They'd made me feel powerless and unimportant my whole life. Now I had what they wanted, and they had to come to me. Was that petty? Maybe, but it felt like karma. Then, one Saturday morning, my doorman called up. Mr. Walker, there's a couple here to see you. They say they're your parents. My heart started pounding. I'm not expecting anyone. They're quite insistent, sir. The woman is getting upset. I sighed. Send them up. I knew this day would come eventually. Might as well get it over with. When I opened it, I barely recognized my parents standing there. Dad looked like he'd aged 10 years. Gray hair, deep wrinkles, the whole deal. Mom was skinny in a not healthy way, wearing clothes that used to fit her, but now just hung off her frame. They both had this look I'd never seen before, like cornered animals. Ryan, Mom whispered, reaching for a hug. I stepped back, keeping the door half closed like a shield. How'd you find my address? I asked. Dad cleared his throat. Rick told us, said it was time we talked. That pissed me off. Uncle Rick had always been the one person who respected my boundaries. I made a mental note to call him later and ask what the hell. Can we come in? Mom tried to peek around me. Looks like a beautiful place. I almost said no, but figured might as well get this over with. I stepped aside and let them in, watching their faces as they saw my place for the first time. Their eyes got huge taking in the view, the fancy furniture, all of it. You've done really well, Dad said, sounding weirdly jealous and proud at the same time. What do you want? I didn't offer them a seat or anything. They looked at each other like they were deciding who would speak. Mom's eyes got all watery. We miss you, Ryan. It's been 2 years. Whose fault is that? I shot back. Dad sighed. We know we screwed up. Missing your graduation was... We should have been there. We've had a lot of time to think about everything. How we treated you growing up. It was never just about graduation, I said, feeling like a broken record. It's my entire life being treated like I didn't matter. We know, Mom said, staring at the floor. We understand that now. I crossed my arms. So what changed? The articles about me? Seeing my success? Because you didn't care about understanding until I started making good money. Dad's face got red. That's not fair. Seriously? You're here because you need something. Just tell me what it is. Money. Mom wiped her eyes. Your father's business is failing. We might lose the house. We had to sell my car already, and Jenna had to drop out of grad school because we can't pay for it anymore. And there it was. The real reason. Not because they missed me or regretted anything. They needed a bailout. So you thought I'd just write you a check? After everything? We're your parents, Dad said, his voice getting that authoritative tone he used when I was a kid. Family helps family. I actually laughed out loud. Family helps family? Where was that attitude when I needed you? Where was that when you picked Jenna over me every single time for 20 plus years? We made mistakes, Mom was practically begging now. But people change. We've realized what's important. No, I shook my head. You haven't changed. You're still just looking out for yourselves. The only difference is now you need me instead of the other way around. I walked to the door and opened it. Time for you to leave. Dad's face got hard. That's it? You're turning your back on us when we need help? After everything we did for you? That was the last straw. What exactly did you ever do for me, Dad? Seriously. Name one time you put me first. One time you chose me over Jenna. He opened his mouth, froze, then closed it again. Couldn't think of a single example. Yeah, that's what I thought, I said quietly. Get out. Mom was full on crying now. Please, Ryan. We have nowhere else to go. For half a second, I almost felt bad for them. Almost. That sounds like a you problem, I said. Maybe ask your favorite child for help. After they left, I called Uncle Rick right away. You told them where I live, I said, still annoyed. He sighed. Look, kid, I thought it was time. They're in serious trouble, and they are your parents, even if they've been shitty ones. They only showed up because they wanted a handout. Probably, he admitted. But people sometimes do change when life knocks them on their ass. Not saying you should help them, just saying maybe hear them out. I thought about it all night. The next morning, I typed up an email. I'm not giving you money. Not because I don't have it, but because cash won't fix what's broken between us. I've spent 2 years building a life without you, and I'm doing great. I don't hate you anymore, but I don't need you either. Figure your own shit out. Don't contact me again. Hit send, closed my laptop, and felt this huge weight lift off me. Done. Finally done with all of it. I went on a date that night with this cool girl from my climbing gym. Smart, funny, no drama. For once I was excited about my future, one I built myself without their bullshit holding me back. So that's it. My whole story. You guys think I'm an asshole for not helping them? Or did I do the right thing walking away? Not looking for validation or whatever, just curious what others would do. Edit. Wow, this blew up. Thanks for all the comments and support. For those asking about Megan, she ended up dating one of my college friends a few months later. Heard she still mentions me sometimes, wondering where I disappeared to. As for my family, Uncle Rick says they had to sell the house and move to a smaller place. Dad's working for his former competitor now. Jenna moved back in with them. Karma's a bitch, I guess. Story 5. This story is titled, My Parents Kicked Me Out for Their Golden Child, then demanded I keep paying rent and bills. So I made them regret it, and now they want my help so bad. Hey everyone, before we jump into today's video, I need your help. We've noticed the channel is losing some traction, and subscribing is one of the best ways you can support us. It's quick, free, and it helps us keep bringing you awesome content. Your support means the world. Let's keep this channel growing together. Thanks so much. Now let's start the video. This happened over the course of several years, and using fake names disclaimer. I, 32 male, always knew I was the backup son in my family. You know how some parents pretend they love all their kids equally? Mine didn't even try to hide their favoritism. My brother Alex was their pride and joy. Me, I was just there. Growing up in our middle-class neighborhood in Minneapolis, my mom would literally beam whenever Alex walked into a room. She'd corner random people at church or the grocery store to brag about Alex's latest accomplishment, while I stood there like a damn shadow. When he left for college at Northwestern, she was depressed for months. Not exaggerating, she called him every single day like she was going through withdrawal or something. It was honestly pathetic to watch. It wasn't that they hated me. I just wasn't Alex. He was loud and played football and got all the attention with his charismatic personality, aka being an obnoxious loudmouth. I was more reserved but still athletic. I wrestled in high school and even placed at state twice, but somehow my trophies ended up in the basement, while Alex's participation ribbons from elementary school football got prime display space in the living room. I'm not even joking. This dude had a most improved certificate from 4th grade football hanging in the hallway until I moved out. I figured out pretty early that no matter what I achieved, I'd never measure up to St. Alex in their eyes. Even when I graduated with honors in business management and landed a solid job at a medical equipment distribution company, my mom's response was, "That's nice, honey. Did you hear Alex might be up for promotion at his marketing firm?" Mind you, Alex had been up for promotion about 5 times already, and somehow never got it. Probably because he spent more time networking at bars than actually working. But my parents would never acknowledge that. The worst part? I accepted it. I thought that's just how families worked. Someone gets to be the golden child, and someone has to be the spare. Guess which role I got stuck with? When I was 23 and had been working for about a year after college, my parents dropped what they thought was good news. They were retiring. Mom had been bouncing between random part-time jobs at clothing stores for years, and Dad was done being an insurance adjuster. Their brilliant plan? I'd move back home to help out until Alex had kids, then they'd move to Colorado to be near him. Fast forward 5 years. Alex still hadn't produced the grandkids they were desperate for. Actually, he was struggling big time. Him and his wife Megan could barely pay their bills in Denver. The last time I saw him was 2 Christmases ago, where he spent the entire weekend bitching about his condo, his boss, and basically his entire life while wearing designer clothes he couldn't afford. He'd show up in these $300 jeans and new watches while complaining about how the system was keeping him down. He barely acknowledged me, treating me like I was the family dog that was just there for background noise. Meanwhile, I was the one holding everything together. I had worked my way up to regional sales manager, started paying rent to help with their expenses, took care of the house, the yard, everything. I even remodeled their bathroom and built a deck in the backyard with my own 2 hands. Put in those composite boards that don't splinter or rot, did all the railings myself, the whole 9 yards. My life wasn't perfect, but it was stable. I had a good group of friends, played in a recreational hockey league, and was dating when I had time. But no matter what I did, my mom still talked about Alex like he was God's gift to humanity. When I closed a major account that boosted my commission by thousands, my mom's response was to ask if I could loan Alex some money, because he was going through a rough patch. The rough patch being that he'd leased a BMW he couldn't afford, and was now panicking about the payments. And this wasn't the first time, or the 5th, they'd asked me to bail him out. Every family gathering was the Alex show. If he bothered to call in on holidays, everyone would crowd around the phone like the president was on the line. If he deigned to visit, my parents would spend weeks preparing, getting his favorite foods, cleaning his old room like the queen was coming to stay. My birthday? Mom would make a box cake. Alex's birthday? She'd spend 3 days cooking all his favorites and invite the whole extended family. Then everything went to shit. A few months ago, Alex lost his job. Since him and Megan were already living paycheck to paycheck, maxing out credit cards to maintain their image, they were completely screwed. My mom acted like this was the best news ever. No joke, she was practically bouncing in her seat at dinner. "This is perfect," she squealed. "Alex and Megan can move in while he gets back on his feet, And maybe once they're settled, they'll finally start a family. My stomach dropped. The way she said it made it obvious she'd been waiting for this exact scenario for years. Not once did she ask what I thought about it. I was just expected to go along with whatever Alex needed, like always. I remember staring at my plate, pushing around the mashed potatoes, and thinking, here we go again. Alex fucks up, and everyone bends over backward to accommodate him. It got worse. A few nights later, they sat me down for a family meeting. They wanted me to move out. There just wasn't enough room for everyone, Mom said with this fake sweet voice. Besides, it's time for you to focus on finding a wife and starting your own family. But here's the kicker. They still expected me to keep paying rent even after I left. I just sat there, feeling like I'd been sucker punched. For 5 freaking years, I'd put my life on hold to help them. I'd been the responsible one while Alex lived his life hundreds of miles away. And now they were kicking me out so Golden Boy and his wife could take my place? Dad must have seen I was about to lose it because he quickly said I should take my time to think about it. But I didn't need time. For the first time in my life, I saw my parents for what they really were. It was never about being fair or appreciating what I did for them. It was always about Alex. I remember asking, dead serious, so let me get this straight. You want me to move out of the house I've been maintaining and paying for so Alex can move in? And you still want me to pay rent after I leave? Mom had the audacity to say, well, we're on a fixed income now, and Alex will need time to find a new job. It would just be until he gets back on his feet. And how long will that be? I asked. She waved her hand dismissively. Oh, you know Alex. He's so talented. He'll find something in no time. Right. Just like all those other times he was about to hit it big. I'd heard that song before. By morning, that emptiness had hardened into pure rage. I kept replaying every family dinner where they talked about Alex instead of asking about my promotion. Every time Mom showed off his old high school jersey to visitors, while my wrestling trophies gathered dust in the garage. Every sign that I was just a placeholder until they could get their golden child back. And now they wanted me out, but still expected me to pay their bills? Hell no. I wasn't going to be their ATM anymore. I told them I'd think about it, but my mind was already made up. I was done being their backup plan. Over the next week, I quietly packed my stuff. Started with important papers and valuables, then clothes and other things I couldn't live without. I didn't tell them what I was doing because I knew I'd lose it if they gave me any crap about it. The thing is, I'd accumulated quite a bit of stuff over the years. Weights, equipment, books, clothes, all of it had to be cataloged and packed carefully. I'd built a nice collection of tools working on the house, and I wasn't about to leave them behind for Alex to pawn the minute I was gone. I carefully packed my granddad's old toolbox, the one real inheritance I'd gotten in this family, making sure every socket and wrench was accounted for. While packing, I looked for a new place to live. Since I'd been paying a big chunk of their mortgage anyway, I figured I could afford my own apartment. Found a decent place just 15 minutes from work, good layout, 2 bedrooms, and a balcony where I could grill. Most importantly, it was mine. I signed the lease on a Thursday and arranged to move in over the weekend, all while my parents thought I was thinking about their proposal. Little did they know I was methodically extracting myself from their lives. Leaving that night was intense. I waited until after midnight, partly because it felt like a prison break, and partly because I couldn't handle their questions or guilt trips. I had already moved most of my stuff gradually over the past few days, telling my parents I was reorganizing when they noticed boxes disappearing. This last trip was for my bed, the rest of my clothes, and my gaming setup. I left my house key on the kitchen counter with a short note. Found my own place. Don't contact me about rent. Simple, direct, and to the point. Everything our relationship wasn't. I loaded the last of my stuff into my truck and drove away without looking back. The next morning, I blocked my parents and Alex on literally everything. Phone, email, social media, even LinkedIn. Didn't want him trying to contact me through work connections. For the first time in years, I felt free. That first week in my new place was like stepping into a new life. I could leave my gym bag on the couch without Mom complaining. I could come and go without explaining myself. I even started meal prepping properly and got back on my workout schedule without interruptions. I set up my weight bench in the second bedroom, got all my protein and supplements organized in the kitchen, and for once didn't have to explain to anyone why I needed so much chicken breast in the fridge. But of course, the peace didn't last. About 3 weeks after I moved out, I got a call from an unknown number. Almost didn't answer, but something told me to pick up. It was my Uncle Rick. Rick and Dad had this competitive relationship since they were kids, but unlike my dad, Rick didn't bullshit. He'd always been straight with me, and I respected that. He was the one who taught me how to change my oil and fix a leaky faucet when Dad was too busy watching Alex's high school games. Jake, what the hell, man? He asked. You just disappeared on your parents? They're about to lose the house. What? I was completely blindsided. What are you talking about? That's when Rick dropped the bombshell. Turned out Alex had been jobless for 6 months, not just a few weeks like Mom claimed, and my parents had been secretly sending him money the entire time. Not just small amounts, but thousands each month to keep both him and Megan afloat in their expensive condo. To make it worse, they'd taken out a second mortgage on the house without telling me. I could barely process what I was hearing. So let me get this straight, I said, my knuckles white as I gripped the phone. They borrowed against the house without telling me, then expected me to keep covering their mortgage while they kept bailing out Alex and Megan? That's exactly right, Rick confirmed. And now they're panicking because they might lose the house if they miss more payments. You need to step up and fix this, Jake. I laughed, actually laughed. Fix it? Why is that my responsibility? They're your parents, Jake, Rick snapped. Family takes care of each other. Really? Where was Alex when they needed help? He's been bleeding them dry for years, while I've been the one keeping the roof over their heads. Rick went quiet. He knew I was right. Look, Rick, I appreciate you calling, but this isn't my problem. They chose Alex, like they always do. Now they can deal with the consequences. After I hung up, I sat there in shock, the truth sinking in like a stone. All those times they said they were a little tight this month, or asked if I could chip in extra for utilities. It wasn't because their retirement wasn't stretching far enough. It was because they were funneling money to Alex behind my back. While I was working overtime to help them make ends meet, they were enabling Alex's irresponsible lifestyle. The betrayal cut deep, really fucking deep. For days, I tried to process everything. The more I thought about it, the more betrayed and played I felt. I'd unknowingly been helping Alex and Megan stay afloat in their pretentious lifestyle while my parents funneled my rent money to them. And now, after digging this hole, they expected me to jump in and pull them out? This wasn't my problem. But then I started thinking about the house itself. I'd grown up there, put a lot of work into it, and a small part of me didn't want to see my parents lose it, even if our relationship was in the toilet. I'd spent weekends repairing the roof, replacing old wiring, fixing the plumbing, sweat equity that would all go down the drain if the bank foreclosed. Plus, if I was going to keep paying for something, I wanted it to actually benefit me, not just feed Alex's sense of entitlement. So I made them an offer. When I showed up at the house, Mom looked like she hadn't slept in days. Dad barely looked at me as he let me in. I wasn't surprised to see Alex and Megan sitting there too. Alex had that smug look on his face, like he'd already won some game I didn't know we were playing. He'd gained weight and was wearing a flashy watch that probably cost more than a month's rent. Typical Alex, broke as hell, but still had to keep up appearances. I know about the second mortgage, I said right away, standing with my arms crossed, watching their faces. Mom's hopeful expression immediately changed to guilt. Alex just frowned, looking confused. Rick told me everything, I added. Mom sighed. Rick needs to mind his own business. Maybe, but I'm glad he didn't. Otherwise, I'd still have no idea you were using my money to pay for Alex's expenses. Dad started to interrupt, but I held up my hand. Let me finish. I'm not here to fight or rehash the past. I have a solution that benefits all of us. I laid out my proposal. I would take over the house completely. In my name, handling the mortgage legally. No bullshit promises about someday. A real official transfer. They could continue living there, but only if Alex and Megan paid their fair share of rent. At least what I'd been paying since I was 23. Mom hesitated. This is our family home. We're not just going to sign it over to you like it means nothing. It's not nothing, I replied, keeping my voice steady. It's your chance to keep the house instead of losing it completely. Right now, the bank owns more of it than you do. If you keep missing payments, they'll take it back. This is your best shot at staying. Of course, Alex had to jump in. You can't just walk in and take something that doesn't belong to you. This is supposed to be my inheritance, he said, his voice getting louder with each word. You've always been jealous of me, trying to one-up me. Now you're using Mom and Dad's situation to steal what should be mine. I laughed right in his face. Your inheritance, Alex? You've barely set foot in this house in 10 years. Meanwhile, I've been here looking after Mom and Dad and paying the bills while you've been living your life 3 states away and bleeding them dry. His face turned red, but he didn't have a comeback. Just started sputtering about how I didn't understand his situation and how the job market was tough right now. Rich, coming from a guy who'd had 5 different jobs in the last 3 years, none of which he'd kept for more than 6 months. I'm not trying to steal anything, I continued, my voice calm but firm. But I'm also not going to keep throwing money into a sinking ship without anything in return. If you want to stay, you need to contribute. If not, that's fine. But I'm not paying for you to live here for free while I struggle on my own. The room went silent. Finally, Dad spoke. We'll think about it. I nodded. Take all the time you need. But remember, the bank won't wait. You're already months behind on payments. This is the only way you'll get my help. As I turned to leave, Alex couldn't help getting in one last dig. This is bullshit, he muttered. You've always been trying to prove you're better than me. I just smiled. I don't have to try, Alex. I just have to show up. The look on his face was priceless. I think that was the first time in our lives I'd actually stood up to him directly. Mom gasped like I'd slapped someone, and Dad just looked at the floor. But it felt good. Damn good. To finally say what I'd been thinking all these years. For a week, I didn't hear anything. I figured they were still arguing about it. Or more likely, Alex was trying to convince them to hold out for a better deal, or find some other sucker to bail them out. Probably thought if they ignored me long enough, I'd cave and just give them money with no strings attached. That's how it had always worked before. Then, out of nowhere, Megan called me. Her voice was shaking with fear. She told me Alex hadn't paid a single cent toward the mortgage, even after they received a foreclosure notice. He kept insisting I was just trying to trick everyone into giving me the house and that it wasn't his responsibility. But Megan wasn't buying it anymore. I don't want to lose the house, Jake, she said, her voice trembling. I know your offer is fair. I've been trying to find a job, but Alex keeps saying I don't need to work, that something will work out. He spends his days playing video games and going out with his friends, while your parents are panicking about losing everything. If I don't do something now, I'll end up homeless. She went on to describe how Alex would leave the house at noon, claim he was networking, and come home drunk at 2 a.m. Meanwhile, Mom was still doing his laundry and making excuses for him, even as the foreclosure notices piled up. I actually felt bad for Megan. She wasn't a bad person, just stuck with my entitled brother. So I made her a new offer. Same deal as before with one change. Alex had to leave if he refused to pay rent. Megan could stay, but he was out. I can't kick my own brother out, I explained, but I can set terms for him staying in my house. If he can't meet those terms, he needs to leave. Megan agreed to present my offer to everyone. Part of me wondered if she was secretly hoping Alex would refuse so she'd have an excuse to get away from him. That next meeting was a total shit show. As soon as I brought up rent, Alex completely lost his mind. Jumped up from his chair, knocked over a coffee mug, and started screaming every insult he could think of, calling me a greedy bastard and saying I was manipulating everyone. He even got in my face, trying to intimidate me. But I just stood my ground. I'd been dealing with his temper tantrums our whole lives, and I wasn't about to back down now. You think you're so much better than me? He shouted, his face inches from mine. You've always been jealous because Mom and Dad love me more. That's what this is about, isn't it? You're still that pathetic little kid who couldn't handle not being the favorite? I didn't take the bait. This isn't about who's the favorite, Alex. This is about responsibility. You've had a free ride your entire life, and now the bill is coming due. Fuck you, he spat. I don't need your charity. I'm going to make it big any day now. I've got prospects. Prospects don't pay the mortgage, I said simply. Mom and Dad tried to play peacemaker, but it was obvious they still sided with him. Mom kept saying, Alex is going through a difficult time right now, while Dad just looked defeated, like he knew I was right but couldn't bring himself to stand up to Alex or Mom. Standing in the doorway, I said, if you're not willing to accept my help, there's nothing more I can do. Good luck with the foreclosure. Walking away wasn't easy. I kept telling myself it wasn't my job to fix my parents' mistakes, but this annoying voice in my head kept whispering, what if they lose the house? What if it's your fault? But this time, I refused to let guilt control me. I'd done my part. I'd given them a way out. They chose to reject it. Their decision, not mine. Months passed, and my life got better. I started dating a physical therapist named Sarah, got promoted at work, and even started taking Brazilian jiu-jitsu classes 3 times a week. My apartment actually felt like home. For the first time in years, I realized how much I'd been missing. Nothing huge, just the simple freedom to live on my own terms. No one questioning why I needed so much freezer space for meal prep. No one making snide comments about my obsession with fitness. No one making me feel like I was taking up space that rightfully belonged to someone else. Then Megan called me once more, sobbing so hard I could barely understand her. The bank was officially moving forward with taking the house. The foreclosure wasn't just a warning anymore, it was happening. Alex had refused to even consider my offer, and their arguments had gotten so bad the neighbors had called the police twice. I can't do this anymore, Jake, she cried. I have nowhere to go. Alex has maxed out all our credit cards, and his friends have stopped letting him crash on their couches. Your parents are having health problems from the stress. Your mom's blood pressure is through the roof, and your dad looks like he's aged 10 years in the last 3 months. Please, if there's any way you can help. She told me how Alex had been lying to everyone, claiming he had job interviews that never existed. He'd even borrowed Dad's emergency credit card and racked up charges at bars and restaurants. When confronted, he'd exploded in rage, screaming that everyone was against him and that he deserved better than this. I felt bad for Megan. My parents and Alex had created this disaster, not her. I decided to give it one last shot, but this time there was no room for negotiation. I would buy the house completely, but the title had to be transferred to my name immediately. Alex, Megan, and my parents could stay, but Alex would have to pay rent. If he refused, he had to move out. And I made it crystal clear I wasn't covering any of Alex's other expenses. This is my final offer, I told Megan. They can take it or leave it, but I'm not budging. To my surprise, my parents finally agreed. Guess their fear of losing the house was stronger than their need to protect Alex's ego. Even Alex didn't fight as much this time, though his face made it obvious he was seething. The day we signed the papers, transferring the house to my name was surreal. Mom kept dabbing at her eyes with a tissue, like she was signing away a child rather than a house. Dad just looked defeated, shoulders slumped, signing where the lawyer pointed without even reading the documents. Alex wasn't there. Couldn't be bothered to show up for something this important. Typical. Just like that, I became the owner of the house I grew up in. The house I'd been helping to pay for since I was 23. The house that was supposed to be my inheritance someday. Someday had finally arrived, but not how any of us had expected. At first, things were tense as hell. Megan spent all her energy trying to keep Alex calm. Alex barely spoke to me unless absolutely necessary, mumbling under his breath whenever I came around. He'd make a big show of slamming doors and stomping around whenever I visited to check on the place. My parents kept their distance, which was honestly a relief. Mom would get this martyred look on her face, like she was suffering in silence whenever I walked in. Dad would just nod and retreat to the garage. But the problems started almost immediately. Alex never paid rent. Not once. Every month brought a new excuse. He was waiting on an interview, Megan's car needed repairs, or my personal favorite, he didn't think it was fair to pay rent in the house he grew up in, because it was his birthright. The first month I let it slide. Family emergency, he claimed. The second month I gave him a warning. Just waiting on a check, he insisted. The third month I gave him an ultimatum. You're being unreasonable, he argued. I gave him way more chances than he deserved. After 3 months of this bullshit, I finally evicted him. Not just a verbal get out. I went through the legal process, filed the paperwork, the whole 9 yards. I wasn't taking any chances with Alex trying to claim squatters' rights or some other legal loophole. When the eviction notice was served, you'd have thought I'd committed murder. Alex went ballistic, screaming that I was dead to him, that this proved I'd always hated him. Mom collapsed in tears, wailing about how her family was being torn apart. Dad just sat at the kitchen table, staring blankly at his hands. My parents were furious. They accused me of being heartless, abandoning family when they needed me most. But I'd heard it all before, and this time it didn't work. If they wanted to support Alex, they could leave with him. I told them exactly what I told Alex. This is my house now, I said firmly. I've given Alex more chances than he deserves. He's had 3 months to get his act together and hasn't even tried. I'm not running a charity here. He's your brother, Mom cried. How can you do this to your own flesh and blood? The same way you had no problem kicking me out to make room for him, I replied. The same way you lied to me about where my money was going for years. The same way you never once stood up for me when Alex treated me like shit our entire lives. That shut her up pretty quick. To my surprise, they actually did leave, reluctantly packed up and moved out. The only person willing to take them in was Uncle Rick, the same person who lectured me about how families should stick together. Karma's a bitch, isn't it? Living in Rick's modest 3-bedroom house must have been miserable for my mom, and Dad had to get a part-time job at a hardware store just to pay bills. Alex, of course, went with them, still believing he was somehow the victim in all this. I heard through the grapevine that he was sleeping on a pull-out couch in Rick's home office, complaining constantly about the lack of privacy and how unfair his life was. Megan didn't last more than a week with them. One evening, she showed up at my door with a suitcase. I'm done, she said simply. I can't live like that anymore. Alex refuses to get a job, and your mom still treats him like he's 12. She makes his lunch every day, Jake. His lunch. He's 32 years old. Since she was genuinely trying to get back on her feet, I let her stay in the spare bedroom for a while. She found a job at a local boutique pretty quickly and moved into her own place soon after. Eventually filed for divorce. Can't blame her. Alex had been dragging her down for years. As for me, everything just got better from there. Owning the house gave me this security I'd never had before. For the first time, I had a place that was truly mine. I renovated the kitchen, converted Alex's old room into a home gym with a power rack, bench, full dumbbell set, the works, and built a fire pit in the backyard. I replaced the old carpet with hardwood floors, painted the walls, and finally fixed that leaky faucet in the upstairs bathroom that Dad had been meaning to get to for a decade. A year later, my girlfriend Sarah, 28, moved in with me. We got married in a small ceremony that I didn't invite my parents or Alex to. We've been killing it ever since. She opened her own physical therapy practice, and I started my own medical equipment distributorship after learning the industry inside out. Then, about 6 months ago, the karma hit. I was leaving the gym when my phone rang. Another unknown number. It was my dad. "Jake," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "I know we haven't talked in a long time, but we need help." Turns out Rick had finally had enough of their drama and Alex's refusal to contribute anything. He'd given them 30 days to find somewhere else to live. Mom had been diagnosed with high blood pressure from the stress, and Dad's part-time job barely covered their medications. "What about Alex?" I asked. "Where's he in all this?" Dad sighed. He moved to Florida with some friends. Said he needed a fresh start. He hasn't called in months." I almost laughed. Of course, Alex had bailed the moment things got really tough. The golden child had abandoned the throne when it became too much work to sit on it. "So now you're calling me?" I asked. "After everything?" "Son, please." Dad's voice cracked. "We were wrong. We've always been wrong about you. You were the one who was there for us. And we chose Alex every time. I don't expect you to forgive us, but we have nowhere else to go." For a moment, I thought about telling them to figure it out themselves, just like they told me to do when I was standing up for myself. But I'm not them. I'm better than that. "There's a small apartment over the garage that I've been renovating," I said finally. "You can stay there temporarily, but there are conditions. You pay what you can for rent, even if it's just a few $100. You don't mention Alex to me or Sarah, and you acknowledge openly that you were wrong." There was silence on the other end. Then, "Thank you, Jake. We don't deserve it, but thank you." They moved in last month. It's been weird. Mom cried when she saw all the improvements I'd made to the house. Dad actually shook my hand and looked me in the eye for the first time in years. They've been walking on eggshells around me, which is a complete reversal from how things used to be. Last week, I overheard Mom on the phone with one of her friends from church. "My son Jake owns his own business now," she was saying, with that same proud tone she used to reserve only for Alex. He was always the responsible one. It shouldn't matter, but somehow it does. Mom's been trying to make amends in her way. She brings dinner over sometimes, or offers to help Sarah with the garden. Dad's been more direct. He actually sat down with me last weekend and apologized. Said he'd always been proud of me, but didn't know how to show it. Said he'd let Mom's obsession with Alex dictate our family dynamic for too long. It was too little, too late in many ways, but it was something. As for Alex, last I heard, he got fired from his bartending job in Miami and was asking Mom for money again. She told him she couldn't help him anymore. Baby steps, I guess. 2 weeks ago, I got an email from Alex. Just one line. "I hope you're happy now that you've turned everyone against me." I didn't respond. There was nothing left to say. Sometimes I wonder if I was too harsh with them, but then I remember all those years I spent as the afterthought, the backup plan, the safety net. I refused to keep being the responsible one while getting nothing in return. The house that was supposed to be Alex's inheritance? It's where my kid will be growing up soon. Sarah's pregnant with our first, a boy. And trust me, if we have more children later, they'll all be treated equally. Edit update. Holy shit, this blew up overnight. Thanks for all the awards and support. A lot of you have asked for updates about Alex, so here's the latest. He's back in Minnesota now, living in some shitty apartment and working at a cell phone store. Still calls Mom regularly asking for loans that everyone knows will never be repaid. Last week he had the balls to message Sarah on Facebook, trying to get her to talk some sense into me about family obligations. She blocked him immediately. Dad's actually been stepping up more lately. He's fixing up the apartment above the garage, making it more comfortable for them. Mom's still mom, still makes excuses for Alex, still gets that martyred look sometimes, but she's making an effort with Sarah, which I appreciate. As for me, business is booming, Sarah's pregnancy is going well, and I'm sleeping just fine at night, knowing I finally stood up for myself. Some of you called me an asshole for how I handled things, and maybe I was. But after 30 plus years of being the family doormat, I'm okay with that. Edit 2. For those wondering about Megan, she's doing great. Got her own place, started taking classes at community college, and is dating a decent guy who actually has a job. We still grab coffee occasionally. She's actually becoming friends with Sarah, which is a plot twist I didn't see coming. And yes, I did change all the names in this story. Not that Alex would ever read anything longer than a tweet, but better safe than sorry. Story 6. This story is titled, My Sister Who Got Me Kicked Out at 17 Tried to Expose Me as Broke at Christmas Dinner. She had no idea I was worth $7 million. Her meltdown was priceless. Hey guys, 32 female now, and I guess I'm finally ready to share this story. Not fishing for sympathy or anything, but maybe someone going through similar family BS might feel less alone reading this. When I was 8, everything in my life changed. That's when my sister Lily was born, 2 months premature. I remember waking up to my dad rushing out the door in the middle of the night while my Aunt Jenny stayed with me. Everyone was freaking out about the baby, and even though I was just a kid, I could tell something was seriously wrong. Lily survived, obviously, but she was super fragile when they brought her home. Our house basically turned into a mini hospital overnight. Mom was constantly cleaning everything, and the place always smelled like those medical wipes and hand sanitizer. But the worst part was how I suddenly became a threat to my own sister. If I made even the tiniest sniffle or cough, Mom would completely flip out. Sarah? Was that a cough I just heard? She'd ask, looking at me like I was carrying the plague or something. We can't take any chances with Lily. Pack your backpack. You're staying at Grandma's for a few days. This happened all the time. I spent so many nights at Grandma's or Aunt Jenny's place that I had my own toothbrush and pajamas at both houses. At first, I thought it was kind of cool, like mini vacations where I got to eat ice cream for dinner sometimes. But after a while, even my 8-year-old brain figured out what was happening. I was being pushed out of my own home because Lily was the priority. I still remember sitting in Grandma's guest room one night, crying because I just wanted to sleep in my own bed. I missed my stuffed animals and my nightlight, and just the feeling of being in my own space, you know? As I got older, I tried literally everything to get my parents to notice me. I worked my butt off in school and got straight A's. I stayed up late studying and won the district science fair in 5th grade with this project about plant growth and different types of light. I was so excited to show my parents. They barely acknowledge it. And the thing is, I don't even blame Lily for any of this. She was just a baby, then a little kid. It wasn't her fault. But as the years went by, the pattern just got more and more obvious and painful. By middle school, I was desperate for any scrap of attention. Once, I aced a tough math test, and the teacher even wrote that I had exceptional talent. I showed it to my dad, hoping for a little recognition. He barely glanced at it and said, "Math comes easy to you. You should be getting perfect scores," then went back to helping Lily with her basic multiplication. I just went to my room and cried into my pillow. Family get-togethers were worse. My parents would gush over Lily's smallest achievements. Lily learned a new song, but when someone asked about me, Sarah's doing fine in school, like I was a background character in my own life. So I started spending a lot of time alone in my room reading books. At least the characters in books noticed me in a way. Sounds pretty pathetic now that I'm typing it out, but that's how I coped back then. Every birthday, I'd get my hopes up that this would be the day I mattered. And every year, something with Lily would take priority. On my 12th birthday, Lily had a dance recital scheduled for the same day. Guess which one was more important? So my party was just a quick cake after we got home from her recital. My parents were tired from the big day and went to bed early. I sat alone in the kitchen eating leftover cake, watching the candles melt into the frosting. And let me tell you, when you grow up feeling invisible in your own home, you start to believe that's all you deserve. You start to think maybe there's something wrong with you, not with how they're treating you. By the time Lily turned 7, she wasn't even sick anymore. Like, at all. Completely healthy kid, running around, no problems whatsoever. But my parents were stuck in this weird protective mode that they couldn't snap out of. And Lily? That kid figured out real quick that she had power over everyone. She wasn't dumb. She'd act all weak and pitiful whenever she wanted something, and it worked every single time. When we were in high school, Lily became a total drama queen, constantly making up stories about how I was mean to her or scared her. I mostly just tried to stay out of her way, but it didn't matter what I actually did. She'd make stuff up anyway because she loved the attention. The breaking point happened when I was 17. I came home from debate team practice really tired and needed to study for a big test. Lily was playing really loud music in the living room, so I went to my room and closed the door. I didn't slam it or anything, just closed it normally because I wanted some quiet to study. About 10 minutes later, my dad burst into my room looking super angry. What did you do to your sister? I had no clue what he was talking about. Turned out Lily had run to them crying, claiming I had slammed the door in her face and yelled at her to shut up. Complete lies. But they believed her instantly. No questions asked. They didn't even ask for my side of the story. Mom and Dad went ballistic. Dad ranted about how my hostility and aggression towards sweet Lily were getting out of control. Mom acted like I was some kind of threat, saying she was genuinely concerned for Lily's safety and that my outbursts had been building up for months. Outbursts? I barely even spoke at home anymore. But Lily had been planting seeds for weeks, twisting little things to make me look bad, like claiming I gave her dirty looks or that I was always in a bad mood. They weren't hearing me. I tried to explain, but it didn't matter. Lily stood in the hallway, arms crossed, that faint smirk just for me. She knew exactly what she was doing. Dad's face was red. Your hostility toward Lily is out of control. Hostility? I closed my fucking door, I snapped. That's it. But of course, you believe her. You always do. She wouldn't lie about something like this, Mom said sharply. I let out a cold laugh. She lies all the time, but you're too blind to see it. She's been playing you for years. You're just too desperate to have your perfect little princess to care. Dad's jaw clenched. Watch it. No, you watch it. I fired back. It was the final straw for me. You've made it pretty clear who you actually care about. It's her. Always her. I could disappear tomorrow, and you wouldn't notice until it made things inconvenient for Lily. Mom flinched, but Dad's face twisted in rage. That's enough. I wasn't done. You're pathetic, I spat, the words burning in my throat. You don't care about what's true. You just want things to be easy. You let her walk all over you, and I'm done pretending like you're anything but weak for falling for it. The silence that followed was thick. Dad's face darkened, his fists clenched at his sides. Get out, he said, low and dangerous. Get out of my house. I blinked, frozen for a second. You're serious? I don't want you here anymore. He pointed to the door. Go. I was 17. When Dad kicked me out, I didn't have time to think, let alone figure out where to go. I shoved whatever I could into my school backpack and gym bag, leaving most of my stuff behind: books, photos, everything. I thought about going to Grandma's, but it didn't feel like an option. She was always kind, but she never pushed back against my parents. Every time I stayed there growing up, it felt more like being stashed away than welcomed. I wasn't about to show up just to be sent back or told to work things out with Mom and Dad. So I slept in my old Toyota that night, parked in the corner of a grocery store lot. I sat there until 3 a.m., staring at my phone, waiting for them to call and say it was a mistake, that I could come home. The call never came. That first night turned into almost 4 months of living in my car. I'd park in different spots each night, behind stores, in quiet neighborhoods, anywhere I wouldn't get noticed. I used the showers at school after gym class, did my homework in the library until they closed, washed my clothes in public bathroom sinks, and dried them on my car's dashboard when it was sunny. The worst part was this was during winter, January through April, freezing freaking cold. The heater in my Toyota barely worked. I'd sleep in all my clothes with these cheap blankets I got from Dollar Tree. Still, I'd wake up shivering, seeing my breath inside the car. Some mornings there was actual frost on the inside of my windows. But I still went to school every single day. Never missed a class. Kept my grades up. I was determined to not let them ruin my future too. My parents never called to check if I was okay. Not once in those months. They didn't care if I was literally freezing to death in a car somewhere. Meanwhile, I found out through social media that they had already turned my bedroom into a hobby room for Lily, with a new desk and art supplies. Posted pictures of it on Facebook like I never even existed. I tried to hide that I was homeless, but it's really hard to keep something like that secret. My clothes started to smell no matter how much I tried to wash them in sinks. I was always tired from not sleeping well. One day I fell asleep in English class, and my teacher kept me after to ask what was going on. I broke down crying right there. Just couldn't hold it together anymore. She called in the school counselor, and they figured out I'd been living in my car for almost 4 months. The counselor helped me get into a youth shelter. It wasn't great. Noisy, kind of rough, with strict rules about when you had to be in and out. But at least it wasn't freezing in there. At least there were real showers and a place to do laundry. I stayed at that shelter until I graduated high school. Despite everything, I maintained a 4.0 GPA. I was even named valedictorian. No one from my family came to the ceremony. I gave my speech to a crowd of strangers' parents, talking about perseverance and overcoming obstacles while trying not to break down. After the ceremony, I watched all these other kids hugging their families, taking pictures, celebrating. I just went back to the shelter alone. Getting my college acceptance letter was honestly the best day of my life up to that point. Full scholarship to State University, covering tuition and dorm housing. I literally sat down on the floor of the shelter and cried when I opened it. Some of the other shelter kids made fun of me for crying over a letter, but I didn't care. This was my ticket out. I moved into the dorms that August with everything I owned fitting into 2 garbage bags. My roommate Jessica took one look at my stuff and was like, "That's all you brought?" I just shrugged and said, "I like to travel light." Wasn't about to tell this random girl that I was basically homeless before college. College was hard, but not just because of classes. I had to work 2 jobs while taking a full course load. The scholarship covered the basics only. I got a job at the dining hall, which was actually pretty sweet because I could eat for free during my shifts. Also worked at the campus library 20 hours a week. The library job was perfect because during slow times, which was most of the time, I could study at the desk. When other students went home for holidays or breaks, I'd stay in the nearly empty dorms since I had nowhere else to go. Those quiet campus weekends were actually kind of peaceful. No drama, no feeling like I was in anyone's way. Just me and my books and blessed quiet. After 4 years of this grind, I graduated with a business degree and got a job as an entry-level manager at Davis Company. The pay wasn't great, like $41,000 a year, but it was enough for me to get my own tiny apartment. That first apartment was probably a complete dump by normal standards. But after living in a car in a shelter, it felt like a freaking luxury hotel. I remember sitting on my secondhand futon that first night thinking, no one can kick me out of here. This is mine. So I'm working this boring office job, living paycheck to paycheck like everyone else in their 20s. One night, I'm just scrolling through Instagram, bored out of my mind, and I see this ad. Learn how to make your money work for you. I'd usually ignore stuff like that because it sounds scammy as hell, but something made me stop and click on it. It was this online investing course taught by this woman named Rachel. Cost $700, which was a huge amount for me back then. Like almost my entire monthly food budget. But it seemed legit. She had real credentials and good reviews. So I decided to try it. Ate nothing but ramen and peanut butter sandwiches for 2 months straight to save up. That decision completely changed my life. Rachel explained investing in a way that just clicked in my brain. All the stuff that seemed complicated before suddenly made sense. I started super small, putting just $200 into a few stocks she recommended, then gradually invested more as I got the hang of it. I became obsessed with learning everything about the market, read every article and book I could find, watch tutorials on YouTube, spent hours studying company reports and financial statements. My first big break came when I found this small tech company nobody was talking about, did tons of research, really believed in what they were doing, and put in $500, which was a huge risk for me back then. That investment grew to $4,200 in just 4 months when they announced a new product line. Then I rolled most of that into a biotech startup that had this promising cancer treatment in early trials. Again, it paid off big time. Tripled my money in about 6 months. The weird thing was, I kept my regular job as cover. I'd be sitting in these mind-numbing meetings about quarterly goals or whatever, while secretly checking my investment app under the table. My boss would be droning on about a 3% increase in customer retention, and I'd be trying not to react when I saw one of my stocks had jumped 30% in a day. Every extra dollar I made went straight into investments. I never upgraded my life at all. Still lived in the same small apartment, still drove my old Toyota with 180,000 plus miles on it, still bought clothes from thrift stores. People at work probably thought I was just terrible with money. Like, poor Sarah must have massive student loans or something. But the hardest part was keeping it all secret. I was paranoid about anyone finding out. Didn't want coworkers getting suspicious if I suddenly started living better. Definitely didn't want my family somehow hearing about it through the grapevine. I hid my financial statements, never talked investments with anyone, used a separate email for all my trading accounts, and checked my portfolio only when I was alone. By the time I was 25, I was making more from my investments in a single day than I made in a whole month at my regular job. It was surreal. One random Tuesday morning, I checked my portfolio while eating breakfast and realized I'd just crossed the $1 million mark. I actually had to sit down on the floor because my legs went weak. $1 million. Me. The girl who once lived in her car and counted quarters to do laundry. But I told absolutely no one. Not a single person knew. I was terrified that if my parents or Lily found out, they'd suddenly want to be family again. I'd seen how manipulative Lily could be all those years. I could just imagine what kind of sob story she'd come up with if she knew I had money. So I kept living this weird double life. Regular boring job where I pretended to care about small raises. Modest apartment that I apologized to visitors about. Old car that made embarrassing noises. All while watching my investment accounts grow by thousands every day. Sometimes I'd sit in my apartment at night, laptop open to my accounts showing numbers that seemed completely unreal, and just laugh at how absurd it all was. I'd be at work earlier that day pretending to be excited about a $600 annual raise, then come home to see I'd made $20,000 in a single day from a good investment move. My coworkers would complain about not being able to afford vacations, and I'd nod along like, yeah, times are tough, while sitting on enough money to buy the whole company building. I'd go out with friends and we'd split the check down to the penny, and I'd act like that $3.50 for tax and tip really mattered to me. The secret started to weigh on me, though. When you're hiding something that big, it creates this weird distance between you and everyone else. I couldn't talk about what I was really passionate about, investing. Couldn't explain why I sometimes seemed distracted, because a stock was tanking. It was lonely in a way that's hard to explain, and it had been almost 8 years since I'd talked to anyone in my family. 8 years of spending holidays alone, celebrating birthdays by myself, just me and my secret bank accounts. I'd basically decided long ago that I was done with all of them forever. Like, completely written them off. Then, out of nowhere, Aunt Jenny contacted me on Facebook. She sent a message saying she'd been thinking about me and asked if we could get coffee. Jenny was always the only one who'd been nice to me growing up. She'd actually slipped me birthday cards with $20 in them when I was a kid, and once bought me new shoes when mine fell apart and my parents wouldn't replace them. So, against my better judgment, I said yes to coffee. We met at this Starbucks near my office. It was weird seeing her after so long. She looked older, gray hair now, but still had the same kind smile. After some awkward small talk about her job and how the rest of the extended family was doing, she got to the real reason for wanting to meet. Your parents are having some money problems, she said carefully, watching my reaction like she was worried I might explode or something. Your dad got laid off from his job about 6 months ago. They're saying it was downsizing, but honestly, I think he just couldn't keep up with the younger guys. And Lily, she paused, sighing. Well, she dropped out of that expensive college they were paying for. Carleton, I think it was called. I felt absolutely nothing when Jenny told me about their money problems. No happiness, no sadness, just nothing. Like hearing about strangers on a TV show I didn't watch. She said they'd been asking about me lately, wondering how I was. Sure, more like wondering if I had money they could use. I kept it simple, told her I was fine, still working my regular job. She looked relieved, probably thinking I'd been living under a bridge. Then she suggested I come to Christmas. Said it might be nice to reconnect. Everything in me wanted to say, hell no, run away. Don't get sucked back into their toxic bullshit. But some tiny part of me, the part that still remembered being that little girl desperate for her parents' attention, wondered if they'd changed at all. Plus, I was kind of curious. What would they say to me after all this time? I'll think about it, I said, which was more than I should have promised. Jenny seemed happy with that and changed the subject. We finished our coffees, did an awkward hug goodbye, and I figured that would be the end of it. But a week later, my phone rang with a number I didn't recognize. I almost didn't answer, but I was expecting a call about an investment property, so I picked up. Sarah? Is that you? Her voice sounded exactly the same as I remembered, sending this weird chill down my back. Yeah, it's me, I said flatly. Oh, sweetheart, we've missed you so much, she gushed, like we'd been separated by some freak accident and not because they literally kicked me out of the house for closing my bedroom door. Jenny said she saw you. You're working at Davis? That's wonderful. We'd love for you to come to Christmas dinner. Everyone will be there. The fake cheerfulness in her voice made me want to throw up. Why now, Mom? I asked coldly. Why contact me after all these years? Oh, Sarah, don't be like that. Family is family. Water under the bridge. Lily asks about you all the time. That was such an obvious lie, it was almost funny. Lily hadn't given a shit about me since we were little kids. She was probably just running out of people to mooch off of now that her college dreams crashed and burned. Does she? I said, not hiding how skeptical I was. Of course. She's matured so much, Sarah. We've all had time to reflect. Please say you'll come to Christmas. It would mean so much to all of us. Against all logic and self-preservation instincts, I agreed. Maybe it was the loneliness talking, that hollow ache that never really left. Or maybe I was just craving some kind of closure, or hoping, against every ounce of reason, that they'd changed. Or maybe I just didn't want to feel so empty anymore. Fine, I'll come to Christmas dinner. Oh, that's wonderful news. I'll make your favorite dessert. Do you still like chocolate cake? I almost laughed. My favorite dessert had been apple pie since I was like 10. She didn't even know the most basic things about me. Sure, chocolate cake is fine, I said. No point in correcting her. I hung up feeling weird. Later. Sarah, honey, we're in a bit of a tight spot, Mom said, trying to sound casual. The mortgage is behind, and with Lily's student loans, and there it was. The real reason for the family reunion. Not, we miss you, or we're sorry we were terrible parents. Just, we need money. How much? I asked coldly. Just $3,000 would help us get through this month, she said, trying to sound desperate but also entitled, like I owed them this. We'd pay you back, of course, once your father finds a new position. I thought about my investment account, now worth over $7 million. I thought about freezing in my car all those winters ago. I thought about them turning my bedroom into Lily's hobby room while I was literally homeless. Part of me wanted to tell her to go to hell, but another part wanted to see how this would play out. Would they actually be grateful? Would they finally see me as valuable? Or would they just take and demand more? I can send $1,500, I said. That's all I can spare right now. A complete lie, obviously, but I wanted to see their reaction to getting less than they asked for. She sounded disappointed, but accepted. That would be helpful. Thank you, Sarah. I set up a monthly transfer, telling myself it was just an experiment, just to keep an eye on them. But honestly, some broken part of me still wanted them to finally see me, to finally be proud of me, to treat me like I mattered. The transfer went through the next day. Mom called to thank me, but it was brief and a little cold, like she was annoyed I hadn't sent the full amount she'd asked for. Dad never called to say thanks at all. Over the next few weeks, I got a few texts from Lily. Super fake, overly friendly, asking how I was doing, saying she missed her big sis. I responded minimally. She never once apologized for her role in getting me kicked out. Never acknowledged any of the past hurt. Just acted like we were best buddies who'd lost touch. One night she texted, "Oh my God, did you hear Dad's car broke down? They can barely pay bills already and now this? So stressful for all of us." The hint was about as subtle as a brick to the face. I didn't respond. As Christmas got closer, I started getting more and more anxious. What was I walking into? Was I being an idiot? Was this some elaborate setup to get more money out of me? I almost canceled a dozen times. But I was also curious. Part of me wanted to see their faces when they realized I wasn't the desperate, broken girl they'd thrown away. I had a stable job, my own place. I was doing just fine without them. That would be satisfying, at least. When Christmas Day arrived, I sat in my car outside my parents' house for like 15 minutes, seriously debating whether to just drive away. My stomach was in knots. But I finally forced myself to get out and walk to the door. Standing on their porch, I almost turned around and left like 3 separate times. But I rang the doorbell. Mom opened it, looking older but basically the same. "Sarah, you came!" She gave me this awkward hug that I didn't return. Just stood there like a statue while she wrapped her arms around me. The house was full of relatives I barely remembered. Aunt Jenny gave me a genuine smile from across the room. Everyone else just looked uncomfortable, like they didn't know what to say to me. A few cousins I hadn't seen since I was a teenager gave me these weird, pitying looks, like I was some charity case they had to be nice to. Lily was sprawled on the couch, scrolling through her phone. She'd put on like 30 pounds since I last saw her, and had that permanently annoyed expression of someone who's used to getting their way all the time. When she saw me, her eyes narrowed. "Well, look who it is. Still wearing the same cheap clothes I see," she said, eyeing my outfit. I was wearing a simple sweater and jeans. Nothing fancy, but not exactly rags either. "Nice to see you too, Lily," I said flatly. Dad nodded stiffly from his recliner. "Your mother says you've been helping us out financially." "That's good." I just nodded. I didn't know why they were acting nice exactly, but I'd been sending them $1,500 a month for 3 months now, curious to see if it would change anything between us. Dinner was this weird performance. Mom made a big show of serving me first, making comments about how wonderful it was to have the whole family together again. But every other sentence was about Lily. Lily almost finished her degree, you know. She's just taking a little break. Lily's been offered several positions. She's just waiting for the right opportunity. I noticed Lily watching me closely whenever money came up, like when Dad mentioned their roof needed repairs, or when Mom talked about Lily needing a new car for job interviews. She was studying my reactions, probably trying to figure out exactly how much money I had. I kept my face neutral, just nodding sympathetically like any normal person with a modest income would. After dinner, Mom brought out a chocolate cake. "I made your favorite," she announced proudly. I didn't correct her that my favorite had been apple pie since I was 10. I just thanked her and took a small slice. That's when Lily started in. So, Sarah, how's that tiny apartment of yours? Still in that sketchy neighborhood? It's fine, I said. And that old Toyota? Still running? Must have what? 200,000 miles on it by now. She pressed, a mean little smile playing at her lips. Something like that. Must be hard, barely making ends meet at your age, she continued. I mean, you're what, 32? And still just an office drone? I could feel where this was going. She was trying to embarrass me in front of the whole family, trying to make herself look better by comparison, even though she was the one who dropped out of college and was living with our parents. I manage, I said simply. She laughed, but there was no humor in it. Yeah, you're managing so well you can only afford to help mom and dad with $1,500 a month. Do you know how insulting that is? They asked for $3,000. They need $3,000. Aunt Jenny tried to intervene. Lily, that's not appropriate dinner conversation. No, I want to know. Lily cut her off. I want to know why she's being so stingy when our parents are struggling, when I have student loans crushing me, when we could lose this house. Mom looked uncomfortable. Lily, please. Sarah is helping as much as she can. Is she, though? Lily's voice got louder. Look at her. Always been cheap, always pinching pennies with those secondhand clothes and that discount haircut. She's obviously holding out on us. She could help more, but she's just being selfish. It's pathetic. Lily, that's enough, Dad said, but without much conviction. But Lily was on a roll now. I know how much you make, Sarah. You can definitely afford more than $1,500 a month. You're just being selfish. The table went quiet. I realized Lily had planned this ambush all along. How much do I make, Lily? I asked calmly. What? You said you looked me up, so tell everyone exactly how much I make. She faltered slightly before regaining her confidence. Like $55,000 a year, which means after taxes and your cheap apartment, you should have plenty left over to actually help your family. I nodded slowly. Interesting math. It's not math, it's fact, she snapped. You're holding out on us, probably saving for some stupid vacation, while mom and dad might lose their house. Mom jumped in. Sarah, we don't expect you to solve all our problems, but if you could maybe increase your help just a little, and there it was. The whole setup. Lily had convinced them I was being stingy, holding back money I could easily give them. You know what? I said, standing up. I need my laptop from my car. I want to show you all something. I went out to my car and grabbed my laptop. When I came back in, Lily had a smug look on her face, probably thinking she'd embarrassed me into coughing up more money. I sat down, opened my laptop, and logged into my investment account. Then I turned the screen toward them, showing the balance. $7,243,158.65. This is what I've built while you all thought I was just scraping by at some office job. This is what I've accomplished with zero help from any of you. The silence was deafening. Mom's face went white. Dad's mouth hung open. But Lily looked like she'd been slapped. She stared at the screen, then at me, then back at the screen. Lily was confused as hell. That's impossible. You drive a Toyota. You shop at Target. She saged, I grinned. Yeah, because unlike some people, I don't treat money like Monopoly cash. See, I learned that it's smarter to invest in my future, not drop out of an expensive college and expect someone else to pick up the bill. Mom's brain must have rebooted because she suddenly slapped on this weird, overly excited smile. Oh, Sarah, this is just wonderful news. We always knew you'd do well. Always said you'd make something of yourself. Dad nodded like a bobblehead. That's my girl. Always had a good head for business. Yeah, sure, Dad. You were probably just telling the neighbor last week how proud you were of me while asking if they knew a good pawn shop. Lily was still staring at the screen, and I could practically hear the math equations flying through her brain. She finally looked up, her eyes shining with that special kind of greed that belongs on a documentary about gold diggers. We're family, Sarah, she said, and her voice was all soft and sweet, like she was auditioning for a Disney princess role. Family supports family, and I've been having such a hard time. Oh, family. I tilted my head. Funny, I don't remember being family when you lied and got me kicked out at 17, or when I was freezing my ass off in my car while you were redecorating my bedroom. Must have missed that group hug. That was years ago, Lily whined. I was just a kid. You were 15, Lil, I said, tilting my head. Old enough to know the difference between helping mom and throwing me under the bus for your own gain. Congrats, though. You really nailed it. I turned to my parents. And you two believed her over me, no questions. Just tossed me out like last week's leftovers. Didn't even check if I survived. But oh, now that you think there's money, suddenly I'm family again? Touching. Mom's tears were instant. Impressive, honestly. We made a mistake, she sniffled. But we can fix this. We can be a real family again. I chuckled, slow and cold. A real family? Yeah, because nothing screams love like showing up after 8 years to ask for cash. And then, just for dramatic flair, I pulled out my phone, opened my banking app, and canceled the monthly transfer right there. Oops. Looks like you'll have to find someone else to leech off. I'm done. Lily's sweet act dropped faster than my patience. You selfish bitch! After everything we've done for you. I was baffled, like I needed a minute to process the audacity. Everything you've done for me? Like what? Kicking me out? Turning my bedroom into your art studio before my side of the bed even got cold? Or was it the years of zero apologies and radio silence while I survived on instant noodles and library Wi-Fi? She opened her mouth, but nothing came out. Just some incoherent sputtering, which was about as much as I expected. I shut my laptop with a loud snap and stood up. I'm leaving. Don't call me, don't text me. In fact, pretend I died. It'll be easier for everyone. I made it halfway to the door before Mom came running, her hand reaching for me like she could physically pull me back into their web. Sarah, wait! We're your parents! You owe us! I turned, smiling coldly. I owed you nothing when you threw me out like garbage. I owe you even less now. Dad, never one to be outdone, called after me, You ungrateful little... I spun back so fast, he shut up mid-sentence. Ungrateful? For what? For being kicked out? For freezing in my car while you redecorated my room? For being ignored and discarded for 8 years until my bank account got interesting? No apology. Just blank, guilty stares. I opened the door and left. As I shut it behind me, I felt something inside me click into place, like a door slamming on an entire chapter of my life. Walking to my car, I glanced back once. Lily was watching me from the window, her expression this weird cocktail of shock, fury, and panic. The kind of look someone gives when they realize the ATM just ate their last card. I was barely through my apartment door when my phone started blowing up. Lily was calling nonstop, switching between leaving nasty voicemails, "You think you're so much better than us now?" and fake apologetic ones. "I'm sorry I got upset, I was just shocked." Mom texted about 50 times, starting with guilt trips and ending with straight-up demands for money. Dad left fewer messages, but his were the most threatening, talking about legal obligations and how I'd regret this decision. I blocked all their numbers that night, but it was just the beginning. 3 days after Christmas, I came home from the gym to find Lily sitting in her car outside my apartment building. When she saw me, she jumped out and rushed over. "Sarah, please, can we talk?" she asked, looking desperate. "I'm sorry about Christmas. I was just surprised, that's all." "There's nothing to talk about," I said, trying to move past her. She grabbed my arm. "You don't understand. I'm in real trouble. The student loans are not my problem," I finished for her. "Let go of my arm." Her face changed instantly, the fake sweetness replaced by the same mean expression I remembered from childhood. "You always thought you were better than me, didn't you? Even when we were kids. And now you think because you have money, you can just ignore your family? Lily, we haven't been family since the day you lied and got me kicked out." "Oh my God, are you still hung up on that?" she sneered. "It was one little lie. How was I supposed to know they'd go nuclear?" I stared at her, stunned by her complete lack of remorse. "You knew exactly what you were doing. You wanted my room, you wanted all the attention, and you got it. Congratulations." "I didn't know you'd end up homeless," she protested, but I could tell she was lying. "And anyway, look how well it worked out for you. You're rich now." "No thanks to any of you." Her face got ugly then. "You know what? Mom and Dad are right. You owe us. And if you don't help us voluntarily, we'll make you." "Is that a threat?" "It's a promise. Dad's already talking to lawyers. You have a legal obligation to support your parents in their old age. It's called filial responsibility. Look it up." I actually laughed. "Tell Dad to save his money on lawyers. Those laws only apply in certain states under very specific circumstances, and none of them apply here." "We'll see about that," she snapped. "And I'm telling everyone what a selfish bitch you are. The whole family. All our old friends. Everyone will know." "Go ahead," I said calmly. "Tell them I won't give my abusive parents money. Tell them I won't fund your dropout lifestyle. See who actually cares." After she stormed off, but their campaign didn't stop. Mom went on Facebook with a dramatic post about her troubled daughter abandoning her struggling family, playing the victim card hard. Dad actually consulted a lawyer, but when he was told he had no legal claim to my money, he switched to threats, saying he'd report me to the IRS for hiding assets, which I wasn't. Every penny was legit and taxed. That was my last straw. I gave notice at my apartment, took a leave of absence from work, and started searching for property in Colorado. I wanted distance, both physical and emotional, found a cabin-style house near a small town in the Rockies, paid for it outright, packed up only what mattered, and left. Changed my phone number, email, everything. The day I drove away felt like my first real breath in years, like I'd finally stepped out of the shadow they'd kept me under. In Colorado, life started to feel real again. I volunteered at a youth shelter, remembering too well what it felt like to be young and homeless. That's where I met Alex. Kind, patient, the exact opposite of anyone from my past. We started dating, and 6 months in, I told him everything. About the homelessness, the secret investments, the mess with my family. I was terrified he'd look at me differently, but all he said was, "Are you okay?" Not about the money, not about the drama, just about me. A year later, we were married by a lake near our home, surrounded by people who actually cared. We built a foundation to help kids aging out of foster care, breaking the cycle I came from. And when our babies who'd been bounced around the system came into our lives, it felt like everything had come full circle. And yeah, that's where I'm at now. Tell me what you guys think.